get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday night to you all, and we are here again with another edition of Talkin Romero. I got a couple of guests with me tonight. Looking forward to talking to these guys because just turns out they got some pretty cool shit in the works that we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm pretty excited to find out more about it. Brandon, you've been on before. You were on a round table. It's been about a month. About a year ago now, close
Something
to.
like that.
So yeah, Brandon Salisbury, director, writer. George Romero's Resident Evil, and something else coming up here soon we'll talk about. And join us for the first time is a guy that I was telling him before we went live. After seeing his interview and listening to some of his thoughts and history with Romero and Resident Evil and whatnot on the bonus features of the George A. Romero's Resident Evil documentary Blu-ray, I was like, I want to hear more from this guy. And Brandon made it happen, and here he is. Now, is it Tom? Is it Robenolt or Robenolt? Because I've heard it both ways.
Robenolt. You were right the first time.
Robenolt. Okay, all right. Tom, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I know you said before we went live, you're like, I don't really talk a lot. I don't really talk too much. Well, I'm going to try to pull what I can out of you tonight, man.
You can try your best.
We'll do what we can. What's up, everybody in the chat? I saw quite a few people hopping in here. I saw Matt Blasey in the house. He's just here to oogle over Brandon or ogle over Brandon, whichever way you want to do it, which y'all, can't blame him. I saw Jeff hop in here tonight. What's going on, Jeff? Down is up. Good evening, everyone. Paul Brooks TV. Happy Saturday night, my man. Got Michelle Parsons in the house, our resident Canadian blood-sucking Pharaohs and Pittsburgh fan, which I think ever since we did that watch along, my computer has blown up. Internet completely went out last weekend, so I'm hoping that the curse has been lifted for this one at least. We'll see what happens. So Stezio, what's going on, Stezio in the house? Hey fam, hope y'all are well. Hope you're doing well too, my man. 5 weeks away from Living Dead weekend, and got a lot on the dock. I pretty much got every show planned out from now until Living Dead weekend. So stay tuned. We'll gonna be a lot going on, especially next weekend. Jesus Christ, I'm on Grande show on Thursday. I'll be doing the Rue Morgue show with the Revival House guys on Friday, and then Saturday we're doing the Document of the Dead fan commentary. So yeah, y'all are gonna get sick to fucking death seeing my face. So good luck. Let's see. It's Robert's in the house. Robert Harbert's II. What's going on, brother? Let's see who else we got in here. Blasey and Brandon going back and forth here. Baba Ganoush. Howdy, my man. What's going on? I think another fellow Canadian, if I remember correctly. Stephen Ustrack Jr. What's going on, man? Howdy, campers, he says. Bonnie Bailey in the house as always. What's going on, Bonnie? Good to see you. We got Fat Pig, the Conqueror's in the house. What's going on, Fat Pig? Should I call you Fat Pig or the Conqueror? Which one do you prefer? Just let me know. But yeah, good to see everybody in here. We're going to talk a little Romero, talk a little Resident Evil, but I first have a bone to pick with you, and seeing the ads for the shop.alfaromero.store, whatever the hell it is, on the lead in there, Brandon, I still owe you a t-shirt from the Romero trivia night, and you've yet to tell me which shirt you want. Now, I need to know, or I'm just going to get you a hot pink There's Always Vanilla t-shirt, and I'm going to demand that you wear it at Living Dead weekend here in a few weeks.
I'll get it to you this week.
Okay.
I completely forgot I won one of the rounds of trivia. It has been busy.
I imagine so, and it's pretty cool. I'm glad I got you on. And I know when the documentary originally came out, I was hoping to get you on at some point, but you were really doing the rounds. You were on my buddy's channel, Revival House. Great interview there. Love that interview. I felt like after a while, I was like, man, I bet Brandon's just tired of fucking talking about this shit. So I'm gonna give him some time. How much can you talk about, your documentary with so many different interviews and shit like that? So
That's how you know you don't know me too well. I love the bullshit.
Brandon can talk a lot.
Well, I gave you space, but now it seems like it's perfect timing that we finally got this together. Because was it earlier this week or was it last week that the announcement came down about Original Sin, Prelude to
Yeah.
Biohazard? And strangely enough, now was this planned? It came out the announcement came out the same day as the teaser trailer for the new Resident Evil movie. That's whatever. And
So the conversation just pretty much went like, once we got everything in motion, we're like, okay, we got all these different network of people that were going to support it, help share the news and do their own coverage. And it was like, okay, when do you want to do it? Okay, let's do it about a month before we launch the crowd fund. So we're like, okay, April 30th. And then we were kind of feeling a little bit weird about stuff. And we're like, okay, we'll push through. I'm sure there's probably going to be at least another week until they release the trailer. And then sure enough, the day we go to launch, JJ from Residents of Evil, he pops back in. He's like, guys, I just got an email from whatever media company is doing the marketing for Constantine. They're like, yeah, they gave me early access. They said it's going live tomorrow. So he ended up pushing back his video until Monday, but we're like, let's not delay this because we already set everything in motion and we just went through it and just said, well, God help us. So, but the good news is
after seeing that teaser trailer, I'm okay with a breath of fresh air coming from somewhere else. I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, that's more my speed, I think, is what you guys are doing. But
according to the producers and like going back through the metrics, because they did 2 previous fan films, and the last one raised $250,000. So they were saying that we were about on par with their last project when they announced it, and they said that's with an official movie trailer coming out the exact same day. So the metrics are pretty good, even though we had plenty going against us.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched the that 7-minute announcement video. Was it last night or night before? Pretty cool stuff in there. Did they mention? I think they mentioned $100,000 is what you guys are kind of hoping for budget wise.
Yeah,
for this?
Yeah, we're tightening the budget over the next couple weeks before we launch the crowd fund, because there's some things up in the air. You got to lock actors and then figure out their travel, but I think it's going to be pretty close to that.
Cool. Yeah, Tom, let me ask you, my man, how did you meet Brandon? How did you get involved in working with Brandon? Tell everybody the story of that, because were you a Romero fan mostly first, or were you a Resident Evil fan? Both? How did that come about?
I would say I was a Resident Evil fan first, having played Resident Evil 2 when it was new, but Romero film followed right after, so neck and neck, I probably can't lay down exactly which one came first, but I would say Resident Evil 2. But basically, lifelong Romero fan. I know the whole filmography, as I found out a lot of people do after attending Living Dead Weekend and whatnot.
Yeah, Living Dead Weekend's is an interesting gathering of people. Like it's so rare that one filmmaker and one filmography would have like an entire yearly, sometimes multiple times a year convention just for that sole niche. And doing this channel too, I found out pretty quickly, like there's a bunch of people all over the world that are just as passionate and love his films and love him as much as me. And like, I grew up in Kentucky. Where are you from originally? I know, Brandon, you're from Pennsylvania, right? Where are you from originally, Tom?
Also Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half north of Brandon.
Okay. Yeah. I grew up in Kentucky. Like I was a kid down here, like finding all this stuff, loving like Romero and horror and stuff, and I was like the only one outside of my uncle. My uncle was like the one in the family who introduced me to all this stuff. He introduced me to Resident Evil, like same story as yours. Like Resident Evil 2 was my introduction to what zombies were, period. And after seeing that and blowing my little 8-year-old mind or whatever, however old I was when I first saw that, and I was like, what are these zombie things? Like, what are these? This is fascinating. And then I discovered Romero, and then I was the only kid my age in my town that knew anything about Romero. So doing this channel, Living Dead Weekend, going there for the first time, the old message boards back in the day. I don't know if you used to, the homepage of the dead, stuff like that. It was like, oh man, there's like these other people out there, but I can't, I can't touch them. I don't know where they're at, and it's like all of a sudden it's like we have this thing where we can get together at the mall once a year, twice a year, and speak the same language, as I always say.
Yeah. I have a similar story, and I came to find out that a lot of people have that same story where they grew up being the only one, thinking they were all alone, basically, and then you grow up and you find out you're not alone. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, just like us that care about this stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I miss the old homepage of the dead forum days, though. It was still such a mystery. Like the old websites, Norman's site and Blasi's site, like. It was like, oh man, these are like just little peeks into like this movie that nobody else knows about, and it's like I'm finding out all this information. It's my little secret. Like me and Landrum always talk about that. Romero stuff kind of being our little secret, especially like Dawn and stuff like that. But yeah, I miss those days, the forum days. Those are good times. So what was the first Romero film that you remember watching, Tom?
It would have been the original Night of the Living Dead. 5th grade during a Halloween party, and I had no idea what it was for another year or two until I just stumbled upon, actually the remake I stumbled upon. And then I was like, this looks familiar, and a little bit of, the minimal amount of research you can do in 2001 as a 6th grader, finding out that, this is
on the school library's computer. Yeah, that's what I used to do, and then I got suspended for that shit. So I can do that. My first was the remake of Night, because my aunt told me about Night of the Living Dead after Resident Evil. I was like, what are these zombie things? She was like, oh, if you like this, you'll probably like Night of the Living Dead, because that was the one that everybody knew, even if you weren't a fan of horror or zombies or anything like that.
Right.
And then my aunt was like, oh, you should, check out Night of the Living Dead. So I went to the movie rental store. I think it was like a movie gallery or something like that. And I found Night of the Living Dead, the remake. So that was my introduction to it. So
the VHS with the white case and the green
fog. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, this is just like Resident Evil, which is actually really cool, because I saw you comment on something where you mentioned that you guys, for this original Sin project, you guys are kind of aiming for giving it a Night 90 feel or a Night 90 look. What's the inspiration for that? Where are you guys coming out with that, I guess?
Brandon, you can take that one. You're the director.
Well, there's a couple reasons for it. One is I've talked to other filmmakers in the past when anything gets discussed about, for example, like Romero's Resident Evil and what it could be like. And a lot of the times it's pointed out that Night 90 has a really good balance between color and the harsh shadows. And then even some of the lighting in it, like the actual lighting where it has like a halo effect on it, like the lights are blown out. And that's something that's straight from a lot of the Resident Evil games, where you see it much more so in the Resident Evil 1 remake. But Resident Evil 2 had it. I think there was a little bit in Resident Evil 1 in 96, with what limitations they had at the time when they were just getting used to trying out the pre-rendered backgrounds. I'm sure Tom could go at length nerding out about the lighting on it.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a really good inspiration for it. Just because I know the first thing I told Tom was like, I don't want it to be as saturated in color as the opening of the original video game, where it was just saturation was at 100%.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you look at a lot of the newer horror films, that almost feel like way too desaturated. Like the color is just drained out of it. I didn't want it to have that like new look to it where it's so digital.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reminds me of wasn't it like 90s TV had like a weird like desaturated look to it at times? Like you watch like 60 minutes and it's just
Yeah.
it's just completely fucked. I'd see
Haze. Yeah.
Yeah. Speak some technical stuff on that, Tom.
So I think with Night 90, Savini's whole thing was realism. He talks about that at length in the making of 1990, how he wanted to remind people what death was with the look of the zombies. And I think that bled into the look of the actual film itself, because everything's just very true to life. Nothing's hyper stylized. When you watch that, you feel like you're there. It looks real, and that's what we're trying to recreate. There's sort of like a layer of haze, of fog, with everything from the 90s almost, and we're gonna bring that back, and subdued colors, deep shadows, brilliant highlights, and just make it look like what you would see if you're actually there.
That's awesome. Like it's weird because I know exactly what you mean. Like when you talk about like just the like, especially like to me, like Resident Evil, like the first Resident Evil always had, there was always some weird, I don't know, maybe it's just because Night 90 was the first zombie film I watched, but there are a lot of similarities in just the look and the feel of Night 90, and like to me, like the first Resident Evil. I don't know if it's the house aspect of it and the way that the house is kind of, you know, the look of the house. Maybe I don't know. I can't put my finger up, but when I heard you say it, I was like, oh, that's perfect, because I've always, and like I said, maybe it's just because Night 90 was the first one that I saw, that I've always equated Night 90 to Resident Evil in those games. So I think that's perfect. I think that's a brilliant idea. So it's based off of a book, like it's like a prequel book or something before that happens. It takes place before the original Resident Evil. I've never read the book, so I'm not sure.
So I guess I can give
Explain
a really brief history lesson on it. So back in 1997, in Japan only, there was a making of book released about the creation of the original Resident Evil game. As part of that, they actually included concept art. They included some of the cut content from the first game, and it also included a novella. And the novella was called Biohazard: The Beginning, and it was written by a protege of Noboru Sugimura, I think is the name. He went on to be the main scenario writer at Flagship, which created all the scenarios for the Resident Evil games from like 1998 until 2004, something like that. Unfortunately, he passed away. I always wanted to talk to him because that was like one person who basically shaped a era of the entire franchise. So when when fans like complain about how after like 2004, it just felt like the series like started to wander aimlessly. Part of the reason for that was because they no longer had a writing team that was keeping everything on check, and they were setting up storylines to do in the future. So anyway, in 97, it was briefly translated into a novel called Resident Evil, the book. And you could only get it if you pre-ordered Resident Evil 1 for the Sega Saturn. The translation took massive liberties with the original story. They cut out a bunch of stuff. They changed things around. And both versions have massive continuity issues just with the original game, let alone with all the lore that kind of came after it. So I have been slowly working at adapting it for like the past 10 years, on and off. I would write a draft, let it sit for a few years, and it was sort of like I don't know, just like a pet project. So I finally got to the point where I started talking with Residents of Evil, because we've had a pretty good relationship for the past few years with them, both helping out with the documentary, working on it, and providing marketing, and we just decided to go ahead and do it. So I decided to only use it as inspiration, because the first thing I wanted to do was actually keep the continuity with the first game. So I had to change a bunch of things. I also wanted to make sure that it keeps with the pillars of the original game, meaning like there should be exploration. They should be finding documents where they're piecing together information. There should be puzzle solving.
Yeah, that's what I want more of. I want more puzzle solving. Like that's one thing I never got in the movies that I always loved, was the fucking puzzle solving.
And the one thing that I wanted to do, because the few times they have done it in the movies, usually they go into a room and they solve the puzzle with the piece that's there. There's no backtracking. There's no really trying to figure things out. And I think a lot of the times they just end up playing a piano. They just reuse the piano puzzle all the time. So the first thing I wanted to do was actually create puzzles that as soon as you see them, they're going to feel exactly like Resident Evil. So
that's what I need. I need some statue moving. I need some, some keys, Tom, I'm hearing some real quick. I'm hearing some feedback on your end, my man. Do you have headphones or anything?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right.
You good? Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. I've lost my place. I kept hearing that feedback and the technical aspect of me, because I'm sitting
Sorry
here.
about that.
No, you're good, man. I was just trying to figure out where it was coming from. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, I've had like internet issues and shit here lately, so I'm skittish as it is. I saw Leon popping in here saying, "What's up?" Good to see Leon made it out of here. That's what Baba Ganoush was saying here. Crazy Man 1108 says the games were the precursor to today's escape rooms. I agree with that. Just no zombies, fire, spill, or weapons. Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, just going back, like that's one thing that was always missing from the movie adaptations, which I don't know if we've ever talked about your feelings on the actual Resident Evil movies that we got. Like I saw the first two and I was kind of good with it. I never saw anything after that. I was like, okay, it's just this ain't what I was hoping for. And after seeing your documentary and seeing what you guys did with the documentary, and especially seeing like a lot of the stuff that you guys shot that looks like it's from a movie, like the actual narrative looking stuff. Like I'm excited to see what you guys do with it, and to hear you guys are bringing back some of the puzzle aspects of it. Like I'm excited about that. So
that was a lot of fun for me, because I think the previous draft I only had like one puzzle, and then I didn't like it. I didn't like the way things went, and I ended up expanding this thing. The script is insane, because I had a version of it that was shown around. I want to say it was like 53 pages. This was 2 years ago, 53 pages. And I think we're now up to like 91 or 92 pages. So it's a feature.
Sweet. Now George's version had like the puzzles and stuff. Didn't he try to include some of that in it too? It's been a while since I've read that screenplay. I need to go back and give it another read, but I remember reading that thing when I was sitting in class one day. Like again, like that's what I did mostly in school, was sit online and fucking look up Romero shit and get in trouble for it. So instead of doing my classwork, I was reading that screenplay and the original Day screenplay.
I've talked about it before. think I've talked about everything multiple times, but the Romero script, I remember when that hit, and I would go over on the weekends to my brother's house because he had internet. He just let me stay up late. I could like watch Stars Action Channel and then go play on the internet and then waste all of this ink printing like unproduced drafts of Freddy versus Jason. This is all back in like 2001. And I just remember like going to a Resident Evil website because it was all over all the different communities, from New Blood, the Biohazard Extreme, Bioflames, the Horrors Alive. I was at all those places. And I just remember someone being like, oh my God, the script's out. And I followed the link and it was on New Blood. I had that thing printing and I must have been reading each page about 2 or 3 times as the next page would print. Because, you know, we're going back like 25 years. It's just, yeah. So it's
slow, yeah.
So
yeah,
I had
remember
that thing. I had that thing all but memorized by the time I got to page 96 or whatever it was. I mean, I love the script, and he did have some puzzles in it. He had secret passageways. He had he even did like the tiger statue at the turn, and it was in a toilet. So
drops the jewel out of its mouth. I remember that in the fucking game, man. Like those original Resident Evil games, dude. Like I think the last, because it's kind of like what you said a minute ago about, you know, after 2004, they all kind of started going all over the place. And also I kind of outgrew, well, not outgrew, but I just didn't play games quite as much as I used to. I guess the last one I played was probably 5, but I barely remember that one. But the original, like you said, probably up to like 2004, like Resident Evil, up to 2000, like Resident Evil 4, like even like the Code Veronicas and stuff like that. Like I would get just fucking immersed in those games because I had never seen anything like that when those games came out. And we were talking about this last weekend. Somebody was bringing up just talking about Resident Evil, and I was, you know, just reminiscing and telling stories about playing Resident Evil and shit for the first time. And so like it was something so different and unique. And I swear to God, like the closest that I've felt like, oh, this kind of nails it was you guys' documentary. Like, oh, these guys kind of get it. Like, because I remember when that movie came out, I remember going to the theater to see it. Me, my cousin Justin, my dad took us. I'd seen the trailers and I was like, this don't really look like what I was hoping for, but you never know. You know, trailers, you never really know. And like I said, after 2 of those, I was kind of out on it. And I think after that, is kind of when I kind of lost interest in the whole series as it was.
So I think my summary of a lot of those movies is because I know someone was asking like my opinion about the new movie, and my opinion, I have to be careful because my girlfriend will get mad because she loves the Resident Evil movies, and
well, that's the thing, though. It's like even okay. I want to get you guys. I did want to ask you guys about the teaser trailer of the latest Resident Evil that's coming out. That Zach Cregger's, I guess, is directing. Guy did Weapons and Barbarian, which I don't know how you guys feel about those films, but I watched the teaser. Riverman Todd from Revival House, what's going on, brother? Said he sent it in our little group chat. I don't know, a couple when it came out. I remember watching. I was like, "There's nothing about this trailer that gives me any kind of Resident Evil vibes at all." And I was just like, "This obviously ain't for me. Like, this is for some younger generation, or maybe it's part of the game series that I missed out on. I don't know, but there's nothing about this says Resident Evil to me." What do you guys think? Have you guys seen it? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I do like the original Resident Evil movie, mostly for nostalgia, but there is some like pretty memorable stuff in there. So like for me, like, you know, the laser hallway, the first gun battle with the zombies, you know, there's some pretty interesting, memorable elements there. Even that first 5 minutes where, you know, it's just like the lab is killing everyone. So I mean, it's
the first 5 minutes is pretty cool, and then you get like a couple of minutes or so of the mansion, and then it's all lab after that, you know.
But I usually I summarize it as like I'm not really a fan overall of the Anderson films, but at the same time, he made over $1 billion at the box office. So what the hell do I know? You know, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's nothing you could say against it. The guy made like considerable bank, and you know, it helped grow the franchise.
Constantine's going to do what Constantine wants to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about the new trailer. You know, I will not be so bullheaded as to say that I'm never going to watch it.
Well,
But I would say
why not?
there's a high chance that I'm not going to watch it in theaters. I might wait until it's free. I like Krager. I liked Weapons. I thought Weapons was pretty good. It was different. But I'm not, like you, I'm not seeing anything there that is reminding me of Resident Evil. Like even the Anderson films, you could go in and be like, okay, there's liquors, there's a tyrant, you know, there's the Umbrella logo everywhere. Like must be like every 5 minutes there's an Umbrella logo. But
you don't see any. You didn't see any of that in that. And yeah, it's a teaser trailer. You don't see much. You're not supposed to see much, I guess. But to me, it feels like one of those things where like they're just Zach Cregger's is going to make a Zach Cregger's movie, and then it's just going to be called Resident Evil for some reason, just for name recognition, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it didn't tickle my asshole with a feather.
I'm sure it's going to make like 200 million at the box office.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know,
and that's kind of the cool thing is like it seems like horror is one of the only things that does make money at the box office anymore, and the only thing that wins Oscars anymore apparently too. I don't know.
Well, that was something with the first Silent Hill film, because a lot of the fans did not like the Silent Hill movie because it changed everything about the story, the lore. It just kind of did its own thing. And it really grew because of just the general horror audience. And arguably, I think Pyramid Head, because of the movie, became like an iconic horror movie villain. You know, it's very recognizable. And I think everywhere you go, you see like someone dressed up as Pyramid Head. Or,
that's kind of interesting because I never felt like, because I remember when Silent Hill came out, the movie, I liked it okay. Like it didn't knock my socks off or anything, you know, as you know, as Captain Rhodes would say. There you go.
Is this the shit that's supposed to knock our socks off?
I have to use that opportunity to use that soundbite anytime I get. But it didn't blow me away or anything, and I liked it a lot more until I watched it again here recently. But it is interesting that like the Pyramid Head thing is like I see it all the time at conventions. Like it's one of those things now. Yeah, it's weird. What did you think, Tom, or what are your thoughts overall on the Paul Anderson films and then this new one that's coming out from the teaser trailer?
I own them all. I couldn't tell you what happened after the second one. So I don't know.
I've seen the second one. I couldn't tell you what happened in the second one. I remember the Nemesis was in it, and he was a huge bitch in that. And I was just like, oh no. I think that was the moment that I said, okay, I think this ain't for me. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Story similar to yours. I saw the first one in the theaters with my dad. I loved it because I was in 5th grade, and as I got older, I didn't love it anymore. You know, it's fine. It's not Resident Evil. I don't think I have anything to add that hasn't already been said by the fan base. It's just not a Resident Evil movie. It's a good horror movie. It's fine. It's cool. It's better than something like Children of the Living Dead. But
and shots fired.
Yeah.
No, you want to bring up the 30th anniversary too?
Oh, I had somebody comment the other day on one of my videos where they were saying it's a shame that Night 90 didn't have a lot of extra footage in it, and it wasn't more like the 30th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. And I was just like, that may be the first time in the history of recorded fucking YouTube comments that anybody has ever uttered those words in that order. Like nobody has ever said, well, it sucks that Night 90 isn't quite like the 30th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. I was like, congratulations, sir. You just exposed me to something completely different, something completely new. What about what do you think about the new one? The new teaser trailer? Have you seen it? Have you thoughts on it?
I
what are you
watched it
feeling?
once, and I was a big fan of Barbarian. Thought it was very a breath of fresh air. I thought Weapons was a little bit overhyped, and I'm not too interested in the new Resident Evil. It's probably gonna be a good horror movie, but again, it's not gonna be a Resident Evil movie. So I'm not a fan of the cash grab on the name. Again,
Yeah.
Constantine's gonna do what Constantine wants to do. Who am I to
Well,
say anything different? But
the other thing that I pointed out too, because I've been in and out of the Resident Evil communities, I'm not really going there much because it's really just two sides of the argument just tearing each other down. And it's gotten to the point where it's just so hateful. I'm like, I don't have time for this kind of crap. But the one thing that I pointed out is, a lot of the people that are really despising this upcoming film, they're really putting a lot of anger into something that probably is not going to matter after September. Because at the end of the day, I do not see Zach Krieger staying around because he seems like a guy who has a lot of ideas. He could have just as easily made Weapons 2. So he doesn't seem like a guy that wants to make sequels. He just wants to make a bunch of cool stuff, and that he seemed to talk that way about the Resident Evil movie. Was he had this idea for a story, and he ended up getting the rights for Resident Evil, so he made it Resident Evil instead of something original. I think it would have done way better as a original film, but I don't see him sticking around. Maybe a producer, but I think he's going to move on. So a lot of people are just saying about some of the most heinous shit. When at the end of the day, it's like, look, this too shall pass. It's just like the graffiti. I always use that phrase because I got it from Resident Evil 2. There's graffiti in one of the alleyways in Resident Evil 2, and it says, "This too shall pass." And at this point, that's all I can say to anyone that's getting too upset about this. I don't have to go watch the film. I have plenty of Resident Evil games. I got all my merch here. I got 7 novels.
Yeah, people. That's kind of the same thing with Romero stuff too. When you see a new remake or something, and it's like, yeah, it may not be for me. I may not like it. I may not be a big fan of the Dawn remake or the Day remake or anything like that. But it doesn't erase the fact that the original film still exists, and they still have a place. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it just feels like they've never, no matter who made the film or what they tried to do, they never quite nailed or seemed to know. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of all of the Paul W.S. Anderson ones after the second one. I know they've done different ones here and there. I've just kind of been out of the loop on it, but it just never felt like they could quite nail what the games brought in terms of the suspense because I swear to God, those games just scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, literally scared the shit out of me. And I never, even the Paul W.S. Anderson ones, like the first one, it felt more like a science fiction movie or something more so than like a horror game or like a horror movie, which I think, is what, according to you guys' documentary, it's what George was trying to do. He wanted to make it a graphic horror film, lots of gore and, really base it on the game. And that's not quite what the studio wanted. And they were just like, well, we need something a little more that'll play nicer to the kids or something, we got to make some toys out of this shit,
I find it fascinating and also irritating that for so many years, Romero was ripped to shreds about changing all this stuff from the video game. And then Zach Krieger comes in and changes everything about the video game and is praised to the high heavens. And it's like, really, there's nothing any different. It's just, but it was interesting to see the shift where there's fans that are a bunch of fans, comments galore saying like, I play the Resident Evil games. I'm excited for this. I don't care if it is nothing like the games.
Yeah.
It's like okay, good on you.
I mean, it may very well be a decent movie. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Barbarian just because I hate Justin Long, which fucking Riverman's coming in here trolling me about fucking Justin Long. But yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Barbarian. Weapons, I liked more. I liked it quite a bit. The thing is, it just seems like the teaser trailer just looks like one of those movies, but with the title Resident Evil on it. Like, and it's like the closest thing in that trailer that kind of reminded me of Resident Evil in some way was just the fat guy down in the sewer or whatever the hell was whatever that was sitting there. I was like, okay, maybe that kind of looks like something you'd see in the games, maybe. But
I keep seeing this meme being passed around where they show the tyrant from Resident Evil 2, which is called Mr. X. And then they're saying like, oh, Resident Evil 2, Mr. X. And then they show a picture of the fat monster from the new movie. And it's like Mr. XXL. And I was like, okay, that was pretty good. That was like overall, like I don't really have any hatred for the new movie. I don't have any excitement for the new movie. I'm just kind of like, it's this thing that exists. I have about as much concern about it as I do Resident Evil the musical or whatever it was that they had in Japan. It's like, okay, that thing exists. It doesn't mean I need to go out there and engage with it.
Well, I mean, with that trailer dropping the same time that you guys announced your project, I mean, you think that's going to help or hurt you guys in getting your thing made? Because I think new movie coming out, it's back in the zeitgeist. People are thinking about it, and there's going to be a whole contingency of people. Like you said, it's split. There's going to be a whole contingent of people that are like, well, fuck. I don't know. So they're more apt to support and go see, you guys' thing and make it happen because, Craigers is not what they wanted. And they want, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's because maybe I'm a boomer or something. Somebody called me a boomer last night in the Revice chat. But I like the older style games and then the older style and the look of those games and the feel of those games. But do you think, what do you think it's going to help or hurt you guys more having that Craigers version come out?
You want me to go first, Tom?
Go ahead.
I guess so. I handle all the business. So
Tom's like, go ahead.
He's like, go ahead, dig your grave. Personally, I think it's actually going to help because one of the things is I don't really like too much negativity. It just puts you in a bad mindset. But the idea is like, okay, well, this is a unique opportunity to go do something by the fans, go into something that is as accurate to the canon of the video games as possible. And that sort of gives the freedom for Constantine to just keep doing what they're doing. Yeah. Because we're sort of soaking up that, but we're not making a dime off of it. It's non-profit. So Constantine still gets to make their films, make profit on it. They can do what they want, but at the same time, you have these like fan films that take the edge off of it, like take the edge off the hatred because they can just go over here, engage with that, and kind of feel happy. Like, okay, well, there's something that is closer to what I want. And I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue in terms of being able to get the money and go off and make this thing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to see that we're making a film and then be like, okay, I'm just going to wait for that. And, I'm cool. There's no need. What's the point? I don't think that'll happen.
I think it's cool that the Residents of Evil, that channel is it show. I mean, you can see that they kind of done this already. I think it's a cool concept for a channel too. Like, I mean, who am I to talk about anybody doing like, oh, you're doing a whole channel based on this niche thing within another niche thing? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, that's crazy, But like Resident Evil, like that's that guy's thing. It's like it's hugely popular. So I think the fact that he's working with you guys on this, I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to be pretty fucking awesome, and especially with the bit of news that I saw in the that announcement video, that I was very pleasantly surprised to see that George Demick is going to be working with you guys on this one. I had George on, gosh, 8-9 months ago, I think. Great conversation with him. Really enjoyed that. I'd love to have him back on at some point. But how did your relationship with George begin, and how did he get involved in this project?
No, I mean, I met George at Living Dead weekend, and it's just as usual, after hours, just chatting in the lobby of the DoubleTree. And you know, I found out like he wasn't just a zombie in Day of the Dead, but he was also a filmmaker. And at the time, you know, he was trying to work on a pitch for Night Riders 2. And then I'm telling him like, well, I have this idea for a documentary about George Romero's Resident Evil. So we both kind of, I don't know, like stayed in communication, became really close friends. We usually talk to each other at the holidays. He actually called me earlier today while I was driving home. So we have like lots of conversations, and we've worked together a few times because he did the interview for the documentary, and then Tom and I we went and shot the concept video for Night Riders 2. And then George is involved in this. I was like, come on in, like let's get in here. So like George and I, we always want to work together because, you know, just like Tom and I, we just get along. You know, there's no headaches, and it's just it's nice having like-minded people. You know, people that just want to get in there, you know, do what you need to do, and then get the hell out. You know, like none of us are there like wanting problems. And I think some people get attached to social media drama or anything but filming. But like we're all, I think when we did Whistle to the Maples, one of the actors was actually saying like they actually really like Tom and I because they're like, you see everyone else's like Facebook pages, like directors that are just constantly stirring up drama. And they're like, then you go to your page and it's nothing but business. You might go 2 weeks without posting anything. It's like, but whenever there's something important, boom, there it is. It's nothing else. There's no, it's like a signal to noise ratio is pretty good.
Yeah, we try not to make posts until something is ready to be shown rather than all of our ideas that we can make. Just shut up, do the work, and then gloat about it, right?
Okay, I was gonna say, is that a common thing where like a lot of like indie filmmakers are just on Facebook just stirring shit constantly? Like, because I do feel like I see that sometimes, and it really never dawned on me until you said it. I was like, well, is that like just like a thing that's constantly happening on Facebook now?
I guess so. You know, like people want to vent, which hey, it's their right. But for me, like, I don't really care about that stuff. I just want to go make cool shit. And, you know, I want to keep finding people to work with. And Tom and I have the same policy. We just want to go out, make sure people are paid, you know, paid well, they're taken care of, we're being safe, and they're getting a good experience.
Yeah, when we were shooting Whistle to the Maples, the cast and some of the crew were posting stuff to Facebook like, hey, on set today. I didn't even know about it until we were done, until we wrapped.
You're like, okay, well, it's all spoiled now, but I didn't know.
I mean, that's fine. I wasn't in that world at all. You know, I'll show it to you guys when it's ready. I didn't even know they were doing it.
I mean, they were pretty happy to be there. I know a lot of the actors said that was one of the best experiences they had. I don't know how. I mean, it was like that was a pretty rough shoot.
Worst 2 weeks of my life.
Well, you didn't get any sleep, so
yeah.
It's just. I will say, I still find it funny when I tell people about the last day of filming, and I'm like, yeah, our work day was 26 hours.
Yep.
And they're like, 26 hours? I'm like, yeah, I watched the sunrise twice.
Yeah, we loaded up at 5 a.m. and we unloaded at 6 a.m.
Good
I'm
Lord.
just like, oh.
But
it's terrible.
But you wouldn't rather be doing anything else, would you? Like,
no.
That's the great. Like, I'd love to be a part of something like that. I'd be fucking, and people always talk about that with like George's sets. Like, you know, Night Riders was a tough shoot. Day, of course, was a tough shoot. I mean, Dawn of the Dead, man. When George was filming Dawn of the Dead, look at that man on day one. Look at him on the last day at the end of that shoot. The dude aged like 10 years. Like, but at the same time, it's like everybody that's ever talked about being on those sets it's like, yeah, it was a lot of hard work. It was nonstop. We didn't get a lot of sleep, but it was the best time of my life. Like, it was just, and I think that's the best, because you're going to be having those long hours, long shoots and
Good
stuff.
company.
And if you can have a set with people that you enjoy working with, that you can trust, that you can get through the day with without any bickering and fighting. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced any of that, any kind of like real motherfucking each other, you know, like, oh, fuck
Brandon
you.
and I bicker and fight all the time, but it's fine.
Well, Tom and I have this really unique relationship where,
Hey now,
like, we both respect each other immensely for the different skill sets that we bring. So, like, we kind of complete each other, but at the same time, like, we're both like really good at bickering at each other. So I think if someone walks on the set and doesn't know who we are, they're gonna be like, "Oh my god, these guys are about to fight."
This is
And
the
really,
most
we're
toxic
just
set I've ever been on.
really?
we're like, him and I, like, we'll just bicker to each other. We sit down and edit, and like there's there's times where I can tell Tom's getting pissed at me and I'm getting pissed at him, and it's like, but like, and then like 3 seconds later we're fine. Just how we work together.
So you're like a married couple, basically.
Brandon
Pretty
likes to
much.
tell me, you know, the 6 or 7 steps we have to do, but it takes me a minute and a half to do step 1. So calm down and let me do the goddamn work.
And then my favorite times that I bicker with Tom is I typically have a pretty good memory, and I will remember the most ridiculous minor shit. And I can still remember when I was like, "Hey, I think this piece of footage would look really good right here," and he's like, "We didn't shoot any of that. I think it was the storyboards from the Biohazard 2 commercial." He's like, "We didn't shoot any of that." I'm like, "Yeah, we did." "No, we didn't." I'm like, "Yeah, we did." And it just like kept escalating. I'm like, "I'm telling you, we shot the fucking footage. So I want you to go through that footage." And then we're going through and scanning, and what was it, like 5 seconds? It was a 5-second piece of footage, and I'm like, "There it is, there it is. I fucking told you." That was
If
the
it was
best
5
part.
seconds, that means it was when you were taking things on and off the wall too fast for me to get the shots right. That's why I didn't remember.
But that's just one of those things where, like, that's how we bicker with each other, and then we'll be like back to normal, just right back. Okay, be like, "Okay, what's the next shot?" You know, like each shot's just getting like bickering. We just curse and scream through it, and then it's done. And then we're like, "Oh, that was a fun experience. When do you want to do this again?"
Yeah, it sounds like a fun set. But you mentioned Whistle to the Maples, Tom. You directed that, right?
Yeah, I wrote it, I directed, I shot it, I edited it, I colored it, I did the sound design. Yeah.
So that whole thing's pretty much yours. Tell me about that, because I don't know too much about that. I think I've seen Brandon do post about it a couple times. Is it out anywhere to see?
Very soon.
Okay.
Very, very soon. So actually, to circle back to your first question that I never really finished, in, what was it, Brandon, 2022? I had a short film, Whistle to the Maples, at the Creature Feature Film Festival, Creature Feature Weekend Film Festival in Gettysburg. And Whistle to the Maples got accepted, and it was shown. At the same festival, Brandon was unveiling his first teaser trailer for the documentary. And I remember going to this. I had no idea it was being made. And I remember going to this and watching it and thinking, I should be on that stage. You know, I'm very excited about this, but I should be up there with those guys.
And for clarity, it wasn't really a teaser trailer. It was more of like a a concept trailer. So
Like
we
an
went out and
announcement,
spent like we
Yeah.
spent money and actually filmed just like like mood stuff. Like we had a zombie, we had video game footage playing on TVs, narration.
I think I remember that. I think I remember seeing
Well,
that
this
when it came out.
I may have shown it to you privately. It's never been shown publicly because the music wasn't legally cleared, so we couldn't like release it out there anywhere. But after that, I was looking for a cinematographer, and
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer and being like, if I'm not part of this, at least these guys are doing it justice. Looks very good. They're doing it right. Finally, someone's giving it the time it deserves. So yeah, I thought nothing of it. I went home a day or so later. I posted some frame grabs from Whistle of the Maples and I sent it to the Creature Feature Weekend group on Facebook and just said, thanks for anyone that came out. You know, all two of you that came out. And I get a friend request and a private message from Brandon Salisbury. I'm like, oh my God, this is the director of Resident Evil. What is this about? So he's just talking back and forth with me, and eventually he brings me on based off of the strength of my short Whistle to the Maples to be the cinematographer for the documentary.
that was the highest point of excitement that Tom has ever had with me. It's all been downhill,
And it's all been
after that.
downhill since then. It's just been
But
nothing but screaming and yelling at each other ever since then.
So he showed me the short film. He sent me a private link to it, and I think I watched it 4 times back to back.
Oh,
4
wow.
times. Like it was 15 minutes, I believe, with credits.
About that.
And yeah, around that, and felt like 5 minutes. Very, very well done. Pacing was great. Very beautiful cinematography. Very professional. Well beyond what I was used to. You know, on an indie level, like no budget indie level. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I need to really make a documentary look cinematic. So what I did was I actually had a sit down meeting with Tom over the phone or Zoom or something. I can't remember. But at the time, we were working on other projects, and he thought it was for whatever project I was working on at the time. So we're going through, talking to him, asking him about like his technique, what gear he has, how would he do like these kind of sequences, and you know, everything sounded great, professional. He definitely knew what he was talking about. So at the end, we're like, okay, we're gonna bring you on board. And he thought it was for this other film, and I'm like, for George Romero's Resident Evil. So he's all excited.
Well, it looks great. I mean, had you done documentary style stuff before that, Tom?
Sort of. I did weddings for a decade, so I had some of an idea how to document things quickly. But like sit down interviews, not. I did them on and off for some paid clients. I went full time with Point 5 Films, my production company, in 2019. Right before COVID hit. So I had a little bit of experience with that stuff, but I really kind of excelled on the documentary with interviews.
Yeah.
The narrative stuff I had a pretty decent grasp on, but interviews was the biggest like hurdle, I guess.
So you just kind of figured it out as you went.
Yeah.
Kind of learn on the job. It looks great. Yeah, I mean, you did a fantastic job on it. So
thank you.
So you meet Brandon, you're working on that, the Resident Evil documentary. And then I guess to come back around, you end up doing Whistle to the Maples.
Yes. So in the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted to turn the short into a feature length.
Right.
So after we finished the documentary, I decided I'm going to make Whistle. And Brandon was such a good partner with me on the documentary that I wanted him to be a part of this. So I asked him to be the producer, and he accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also another 15 jobs attached to that.
Producer is an all-encompassing title. So
Yeah, it was like producer, special effects, wardrobe, location scouting, background extra, cook, transportation, logistics. It was like, oh,
This is indie filmmaking, Brandon. You knew what producer meant.
yeah. And you mentioned like indie filmmaking. I find it so fascinating, and that's why I'm fascinated by what you guys do. Anybody that has the fucking balls to say, let's get some money together and make a movie, because that's something I've always dreamed of. Like I've always, oh man, I have an idea for a movie I'd love to do. I've written screenplays before. I've tried, like when I was younger, when it was just me, my cousins, friends on weekends, let's get together, let's make a movie. We'd make our little student films, we'd show them at little film festivals and stuff. But actually like getting it together and like actually going for it, like what, like how do you do that? I guess is the question that I'm trying to ask. It's like what is like the trigger where you guys, I mean, how did it start for both of you guys? Like, did you go to school? Did you go to film school? Did you take any classes, or did you just say, fuck it, I'm gonna figure it out? And then I guess tacking on to that, like the hardest is like getting the financing for it, because you hear people all the time like saying, oh, I have a great idea for a movie, but it's just, but then in the back of your mind, I guess the doubt creeps in where you're just like, yeah, I can't get this much money. Like, what would I could never, like, I couldn't do anything like this. Like it, but so I'm curious about like how it all came together for you guys that set you on this track. Like Brandon, I know you were in the military before you started making film. So tell me about like the journey, like what sparked it, what kicked you in the ass and kept you going, the doubts that obviously creep into your mind at times when it comes to filmmaking and chasing a dream like that, an unconventional pathway through life, I guess, because there's so many people out there that'll tell you, no, don't do that, you can't do that, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like what
That happened with the documentary.
I'm sure. Tell me about it.
I think Tom has a much better background when it comes to film, because he actually went to school. He'll tell you all about it. You can force him to tell you all about it, interrogate him. But
come on, Tom.
but I was always impressed by it, because like Tom actually went to school and I never did. Everything that I did was just out of pure passion. Now I will say that I tend to pick things up pretty quickly. But for me, I was always like writing scripts and stories, and I was very fascinated with film when I was real little. And part of that was because I think the first making of thing that I ever saw was the making of Jurassic Park. Because what 9-year-old does not like Jurassic Park, So
yeah. It's fucking dinosaurs,
so they actually,
man.
yeah. So they, back on VHS, they didn't have special features. So they had to release like an hour-long documentary about the making of the movie, and I bought it and found it really fascinating to learn what it took to actually make that film. And that was around the time my parents got satellite, so I had this whole world open up to me, and I was able to watch like the entertainment channel E. I don't even know if it still exists, but
well, I couldn't tell you.
yeah, but that that channel was all about the business of Hollywood. It's all
well, eventually it became like the Anna Nicole Smith show, and like,
yeah. But back in like the early 90s, mid 90s, they did a lot of stuff where obviously they track like celebrities and stuff, but they were doing things like showing programs on special effects and making of features, anything that was coming out that was real big. And then HBO would have their like first look, where it'd be like a 30-minute program about a making of some movie that's getting ready to come out. I think I have like HBO first look for Congo, and I have a whole thing that's on special effects that shows like the Terminator and Aliens. I think a lot of it mostly focused on Stan Winston Studios and a lot of their work. So I have like that still on VHS that I recorded off TV. So I was getting introduced to all these different aspects, different departments, and how like you actually want to make a movie. But I didn't really get the drive to actually want to make a movie until around 2000, because I had already fell in love with George Romero, reading his interviews. Find like random interviews on the internet, and he would talk about how he makes movies and his process, and just watching his films. It was just late night, stayed up extremely late, and I watched Dawn of the Dead and Night 90. And this was after like just devouring every possible piece of information I could about how they made the films, and then watching them all night. And I think I even watched The Evil Dead. So I have like all this like classic horror, especially with Dawn and The Evil Dead. You really get that indie, grungy indie spirit.
Yeah, the
Holding
homemade
yourself up by the
yeah.
So walking away from that, I had the same thought. I think 100,000 other people did at that point. I can do this. And that's when I started. So I never had anything come of it, but I would write scripts. I would keep learning. And then I went into the military. That was all like post 9/11. So I was in the military for 12 years. And then I got out and then had a family. And then by that point, I'm like too old now. I'm like in my mid 30s.
See,
like, there's no way.
That's what the little voice in the back of my head was always telling me. It's like, dude, you're too old now. Stop.
So
can't do it now.
So then what happened was the pandemic hit, and I was doing like streaming. I had done like a script review of Romero's screenplay for Resident Evil, and I wasn't satisfied with it. I'm like, I could do better. And then next thing you know, it was just one thing after another, just locked into place. And I'm like, I could do a full documentary on this. I don't know how good it'll be. Maybe I'll just put it on YouTube, something like that. Yeah. And as the years went on, I was like, I'm going to make movies. And I used the pandemic to my advantage. I think I was studying like 6 to 8 hours a day. Whether it was articles, whether it was YouTube, like take a whole class, whatever.
Oh,
and
dude, you can learn so much on YouTube. Like,
and then I bought some basic equipment, purchased an editor, just did everything I could, got set up, and I started practicing. I would go and like sit there and actually like write down notes. I would dissect films. I would dissect directors. I would learn different aspects. And then I would go do prac apps. So there's like, I think my Facebook page, like way back at the very beginning of it, there's probably like little teaser trailers I made and music videos of stuff of just me practicing editing. So like I would just slowly like relearn all the skills and went from there. And then that's why I did have an interview where the guy interviewing me said like he had made some movies himself, and he was telling me like his history, and he was like really proud, and I think anyone that manages to make a single film should be incredibly proud of their work, because just finishing a film is hard enough, and then you have to be insane to do it again. But he was very proud of it, and he's like, I've been doing this for about 15, 20 years. He's like, what's your work history? Like, what have you worked on before this? How long have you been doing this? And like, what did it take to get up to this level where you can work on something related to Resident Evil? And my answer was like, this is the first thing I've ever shot. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've never made anything before this. And he's like, well, how did you get the rights? I'm like, oh, I just emailed Capcom. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I've never shot anything. I haven't even made a home movie. And I just remember like this guy, like you could just feel the color draining out of him. And he was just like, look, I'm just kidding, but from the bottom of my heart, fuck you. He was like, I've worked for 15, 20 years and I haven't even gotten anywhere near what you're doing. He's like, you got to make a documentary about Resident Evil.
When I talk about like the people that say don't, or not supportive or whatnot, like I'm sure a moment like that or an experience like that is what kind of clicks for you. Like, okay, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe I'm actually pretty good at this. Maybe this is something I should pursue. And I think everybody needs that person or that moment, that light bulb to come on, where they're just like, oh, maybe this isn't complete shit.
So when I was first coming up with the idea of it, I can remember a few people saying no one will want to watch a documentary about an unmade movie. And I was like, well, I don't care. I just want to make it. Like, I love George Romero and I love Resident Evil. I just want to make something cool. Is that too much to ask? Like, I don't fucking care if no one watches it. I'm making something that I'm passionate about. And I would have like comments like that where they're like, no one's going to watch this. No one's going to care. You're not going to make any money. No one's going to. I think the first big voice was someone telling me like, oh, when you contact Capcom, they're probably not going to respond to you for like a month. And even if they do respond, it's going to take months for you to negotiate a contract. And even if you do negotiate and get approved, you're going to have to pay like $30,000 to even get a license from them.
Just tell you every single thing possibly to deter you from doing it. Yeah.
So I put together like this really brief, like, here's what I want to do. And explain to them, like, I want to be very positive about Capcom. I want to, I want to talk about George. I want to talk about this era when Yuns, made these games and how this early period. And I did that on a Friday or a Saturday. They got back to me on like Monday. And then 2 weeks later, they were like, yeah. They're like, yeah, you're approved. And then I only had to wait a month to get the contract because it was the end of their business quarter. So like all their legal team was busy. But as soon as they freed up, they threw me the contract and it was for free. I didn't have to pay a dime. So I'm like, once I got that and it was signed, I was like, oh, we're in business now. Yeah, the doors are gonna open when it's like, look at this. It's like Willy Wonka. Like, I have the golden ticket. I have a license with Capcom to use Resident Evil, and I could use like all these different assets. And I mean, it did limit us at times too. That was one of the things like the lawyers were telling us, like, well, if you had gone this avenue, like, I'm like, yeah, but I like the fact it's official because I can say, oh, it's official.
Yeah,
it's not just.
It's another thing too. It's like there's that fear of just like, oh, why would I even waste my time? Like, don't even email them. They're not gonna get back to me. Like, it's Capcom. I'm nobody to them. Why would they give a shit? And you have people telling you that, and in your mind, it's like, yeah, why even bother? But then you fucking do it, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it ain't so bad. Okay, they email me right back. Yeah, and it's just
they were
it's
pretty
like,
cool.
Yeah, it's like throwing gasoline on the fire. And it's just like, okay, all right, well, we can do this. We can go. Yeah, that's also it's so important to have those little moments, those little breakthroughs, those little victories on your pathway to getting shit done. And again, it just goes back to that anxiety and fear that people have when you're trying to follow your own path, you're trying to do your own thing. It's like you're not. It can be a lonely walk sometimes, and to have people every now and then just say, "Hey, you're on the right path." That's all you need. and everybody else telling you to turn around, and yeah, you're you're going the wrong way, like in planes, trains, and automobiles. It's like, well, how would they know where I'm going? What about you, Tom, man? Brandon said you actually went to film school. You actually did it the right way.
Yeah, in a way. I don't know what was the catalyst, but I remember when I was 8 just being like, I'm going to make a movie today. So I took my dad's camcorder and we made a movie about an alien invasion with our laser tag guns. I wish I still had it. But that just sort of kept, just sort of kept evolving. Just once I started doing it, I never stopped. And that was right around the time, maybe a year or so later, Night of the Living Dead, Finding Evil Dead, like Brandon mentioned, and all these it's really like do-it-yourself movies. It just amplified it, and I just kept doing it. In 2001, 6th grade, I got my own camcorder for the first time. So that
what kind was it?
The first one was a JVC, soon to be broken. So then it was a Quasar, soon to be broken. So then it was a Sony.
I had a JVC that I wore that just wore out, and yeah, it broke pretty fucking quickly if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so that just kept evolving. I made my first zombie movie in 6th grade called When the Dead Walk. It's basically Night of the Living Dead, but with 6th graders.
Portraying grown-ups, right?
No, that was the twist. That was the twist.
Okay.
That's why it was unique.
Well, see, I went the step where we made, our first zombie movie. We were all adults, but we were all like children. So we were just like, smoking cigarettes, but I'd take one of my dad's cigarettes out of his pack, but we wouldn't light it. We would just pretend, because growing up on Romero, it's like everybody's smoking cigarettes, right? So if you're doing a zombie movie, you gotta have cigarettes,
Right. Right. Yeah, so that just kept going that way, and got into high school, and luckily my high school had some it was called High Tech Lab. It was a class where you could learn like flash animation or video editing or After Effects, whatever like discipline you wanted to do, you could focus on that. And I took that all 4 years. It was a great class. I learned a lot in that class. I think I won my first video award for a documentary that I made then. Also throughout high school, the CKY videos and Jackass was really popular. So that was sort of a divergence for me. So I still did all my narrative films, but like a lot of us, we did a lot of stunt videos.
Jump out of this tree. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, massive fan of CKY. And then after high school, I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I got my bachelor's degree in digital filmmaking and digital media production. I graduated there in 2011. And then I worked at Best Buy for a year, so that sucked. And then I got my first real job in the industry at a place called Deluxe Digital Studios. If you watch a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays, you'll see their logo pop up in the end. It's a red ball with just says Deluxe on it. And that was fine. We had a lot of clients like HBO and Disney, and basically we'd get the master files from them, and then we'd convert them to whatever formats that Netflix would need for streaming or for home video release. And then I eventually left that in 2019 to do my own work full time.
Cool. Now the big thing is money.
Yeah.
What did you go any Ed Wood strategies of hey, give me a little money and I'll put you in my movie, or
Well, you can't spend what you don't have, so we just have to make do.
Well, that was always the big deterrent for me, because you guys, man, I never went to film school or anything, but again, it goes back to Romero and the DIY horror films from that time period of because growing up, I always loved movies, but I was a kid in Kentucky. Unless I had to move to Hollywood, I had to, it's like George always said, it's you have to know somebody, growing up, it always felt like you had to just be in the industry. You couldn't just, So when I first discovered George and found out more about his stuff and him, making his movies in Pittsburgh, he's not in Hollywood. He's doing it himself. It's to me, it was like him and a group of friends in Pittsburgh making Night of the Living Dead and all this. And I was like, well, fuck, I could do that. That was the first time that like it planted that seed in my head of like, you don't need to go to Hollywood or anything like that. You can just make a movie with your friends. And you talk about the Terminator behind the scenes. I used to have a VHS. It was behind the scenes,
Oh my God.
the making of the Terminator. And I remember watching that all the time, but it was always just like, oh, this is just something they do in another world. Like, oh, this is something I'll never be a part of. But then when you see George and you find out more about the making of Night and the making of Dawn and stuff, it's just like, oh, well, if you just have a camera and group of friends and the creativity to do it, you can make something. So I mean, but like I guess over a period of time, like as time went on, it was just I barely, you get older and you get older and you start having bills and responsibility, and you're just like, I barely have money to put gas in my car. Like I can't finance a film. So what was like how did you guys get into that aspect of it? Did investors like? I've always just been curious about like all these independent filmmakers. How do they come across the money to make these movies?
So I know like the short film for Whistle to the Maples was like made for nothing.
Very cheap. Basically saving up from the weddings that I had been doing. That was my bread and butter at the time with 0.5 films. Just putting a little bit away from each wedding and spending it to get that made. Luckily, all the locations we already had. The actor, I didn't pay him a cent.
You get a credit. That's what's important.
That's all he deserves,
Yeah.
I know. I was going to say for the documentary, like we had money, but it wasn't much. I had a friend who donated a few $1,000s because he's like, this is your dream. You got it. He's like, I'm going to support you. And then at the time, like after that creature feature weekend, the news had gotten out. So like suddenly there's like articles everywhere. I remember like waking up and like people are like, dude, you're in Bloody Disgusting. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And like people are sending me links and they're like, oh my God, you're making Resident Evil? Like, I'm making a documentary. But then not long after, we had a sales agent. There's like people contacting me about wanting to rep the film. Some people thought it was already done. They're like, do you have a distributor? I'm like, no, I haven't even shot a single frame of footage for this thing yet. I don't even have $1 to put into this. So I knew at that point, I'm like, okay, I better get serious about this. So money was an issue for a long time. But the sales agent actually had some people that threw some money our way. And, I had a friend or two that like put in a bunch of money. And then to finish it up, I actually ended up selling most of my video game collection.
Kind of like the Kevin Smith story where he ended up selling all his comics and running up credit cards. And
yeah,
I thought about doing that at one point. I was like, I'm just gonna get a bunch of credit cards and just fucking max them out and make this movie.
Let me tell you something. This documentary was going to succeed because I sold some items that were like, it killed me to do so. Because I had stuff from like PlayStation 1 that was like rare games, bought them for like $20 because, PlayStation 2 and 3 were the big thing. And then I'm like selling them. They're like, yeah, this game is valued at $450. I'm like, well, I'm never getting that game again. So, but I'm selling. I sold like probably 80% of my video games, maybe even 90. I have like a little supply over here on a shelf. There were some games I just refused to sell, like my Resident Evil games, but yeah, that hurt. So I think for production, we had about $10,000, and that went pretty quick. I mean, between some costumes, travel, getting lodging, paying for locations, and then there was some second unit stuff where we were paying people to get interviews where we couldn't realistically travel to, like Japan, and then for the composer, that was a deferred payment. So they were the composer, Dwayne Carlton Merritt, huge Resident Evil fan. He was like, literally, his style is inspired by the games, the original trilogy. So he was like, yeah, I'll do deferred payment. That's cool. And so he composed a score for us. So that came like right out of the profits, right out of the bat, was like getting him paid. But yeah, I mean, I'd say all in all, it was like 13,000 to get it made, and then the
That's
distributor.
It?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, we work cheap.
Geez, did most of that budget go to getting Felsher to do an interview?
I love Felsher.
I do too.
So we didn't even have to do the legal fees. That the distributor paid for that, and then it came out of the overhead for what they paid us back. For Whistle was easy because it was like, hey, we got all this money for the documentary. Here, let me give you. I think it was like $15,000. And it was like, we got money now. Now we can like make a real movie. So, and then whatever Tom put in, but yeah, but that went quick too, because once you pay for a bunch of locations, we're paying for hotel rooms. I was actually trying to be a cheapskate. I wasn't getting a hotel room for myself. So we would do like 15, 16-hour days, and I'd drive 2 hours back home. Be like, like lay down for 2 hours, and then like get back up.
Until that night you woke up in the median.
No, I
wait, what now?
Yeah.
So there was like day 6. I'm driving home in the morning because we did a night shoot, and I'm driving. I may have made it about 45 minutes. I was about halfway home, and I'm just driving, and it's a straight path, just a straight road. And one moment I'm driving down the road, the next moment I'm on a beach. I can feel the sun rays like hitting my face. I'm like, oh man, this is really relaxing. Like I could get used to this. And then suddenly I had this thought in my head. I'm like, wasn't I just driving? And I just come to, and I'm like veering off the road. So there was a.
Were you intoxicated at all?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
But I remember like veering off the road, and then there just happened to be a parking lot for like a truck stop. And I'm just doing one of those where I like peel in and then found a parking spot. And I just remember like shutting off the vehicle, texting people to let them know where I am and what happened. And then I just reclined the seat back and slept for like an hour and a half.
Jeez.
So yeah. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm packing a bag, and I guess I'm just going to get a hotel room.
Well, hey, low budget filmmaking, right? So I hear these budgets, and I'm shocked because, I mean, the documentary, and I know there's a lot more too. You guys shot a lot more for that documentary from what you told me.
Like 30 hours.
Yeah. So, I mean, to do that with a budget of 13,000, this new project, you're aiming for 100,000. I mean, that's a big leap. Do you guys, how do you guys feel about that? Are you guys kind of like, oh shit, we're going to be, farting through silk with this budget? We can do all kinds of shit with this thing. Or is it intimidating at all? Like, how do you guys feel about it? Working with a bigger budget, bigger project, like, how you guys feeling about
it? The same way I always would.
Yeah. I mean, for this, like, a lot of it is just going through, like, when you have actors that are going to be on set for like 2 weeks, like they need paid. Lodging. Some people are flying You know, you got to pay for their flights. I don't believe in people. No one should have to spend money just to make money. So everything's
Yeah.
provided: travel, lodging, food. And then when you start thinking about props, we have to do wardrobe. I mean,
Yeah.
if fans want to see the characters that they love dressed up as in the full getup, you know, we have to make that. You know, contrary to popular belief, they don't make, you know, yellow flak jackets. So we have to go like make this stuff. And it can't just be like, you know, like cheap cardboard shit. You know, we actually have to put work into it. The whole idea is to make it real. We're not playing make believe in the sense
Yeah.
of it's not. We're not in sixth grade. You know, pretending like we're adults smoking cigarettes. We have to actually like make the stuff and get it so it's believable.
Well, I feel
And
attacked.
you know,
I feel
I joke
attacked.
about that. I joke about that stuff, but I've seen it in indie filmmaking where they don't have the budget, so they try and fake it. And you see it a lot with like military, like they don't have the money to go out there and buy like $500 worth of gear. So it's like, oh well, let's get this paintball vest. And I think I might have some camo pants that I
Yeah.
bought at the Gap, you know,
Yeah.
like nice
The
camo pants.
Goodwill, you
And
know, or the surplus store, you know, you can
I
find
think I
all.
got my I think I got my Walmart black boots that I bought, you know, and you
Yeah.
can tell like it's not a soldier. Doesn't look like US military, but you know, to them they're playing pretend. And you know, when you look at the documentary, like I actually went to an army surplus store. It probably helped with the fact that I was in the military, so I knew what I was looking for. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I need these items, and I actually cobbled everything together and built the wardrobe myself, just to make sure everything was accurate. So I knew what pieces were from the '90s. So that helped.
So it's basically you guys are actually going to be paying the actors this time
Mhm.
around. That's where the budget's going.
Well,
People get paid.
Whistle, the actors got paid too. Cast and crew all got paid and fed. It's just now we want to pay them more. You know, we should always
Right.
try and step it up. You know, it's a good opportunity. But yeah, like it doesn't take much when the other thing too is we didn't have much crew on Whistle. You know,
Mhm.
Tom and I each got like 30 fucking credits. So this time we needed to make sure that we didn't want to do 16, 17, 20-hour days. I don't want to see the sunrise on the same day. So we need more crew. So the idea is like we're gonna get a lot more crew. We're gonna have more people in different positions. And Tom gets to focus on being the cinematographer, and I can just focus on directing. And we have other people staged that can do the different jobs on set. Yeah, so it costs money, but it's just going to make everything so much easier
Oh
going
yeah, for
into
sure.
yeah. I mean, the other thing too is like we're not doing digital effects. Everything's practical. That's another big thing.
I was gonna ask what you guys thought about. Of course, everything was you know CGI for the longest period of time. Now I guess the new thing, the new big debate is AI. What are you guys' thoughts on AI and the use of AI and filmmaking and just art in general? Because I use it. I've learned to use it for my channel on certain things. I mean, obviously some of the thumbnails are are AI, and you know I try to just use it as a tool, not use it completely as a crutch, and just throw out whatever you know shitty AI art that it pops out. But it is a it is a useful tool that if you're trying to save time, trying to save money, it
Hmm.
can be used. You know, it can be useful, especially for somebody who has, as you guys saw, a 5-year-old and a 4-month-old and you know full-time job and a you know a yard that needs to be mowed. Like there's only so many hours in the day for me to for me to do much. But when it comes to filmmaking, though, how do you guys feel about AI? Where AI is kind of going? Is you know positive, negative? What do you think?
Overall, I think it's extremely dangerous, but it is a tool. It saved me on projects where maybe the audio wasn't as clean as it should have been, and AI tools can clean up and save that. So I think people say AI and they think what you see on Facebook, just full on videos made of it, and it's a lot of has a lot of little uses, like I said, with the audio cleanup or AI upscale. If like documentary, if our only source is 260p of something, but we need to get a 4K image, there's no other option than to use the built-in tools in our editor and their AI. And it, like you said perfectly, it's a tool.
I mean, for me,
if people use it as a crutch, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that was the same issue I had with CG because it's so prevalent in films now, and now it's getting pushed into AI, which is for the longest time I don't like CGI. I like it in small doses. So for when you're doing composite shots, like any sort of digital effects where you're layering in effects and you're trying to modify things to make it fit, I think it's okay. Like Jurassic Park's a pretty good example of doing some stuff that you literally cannot do unless you're going to do like something archaic like stop motion. And even still, you would probably use CG to smooth it over, take away the jerkiness. But I thought they did a pretty good job. And really, there's not that much CGI in Jurassic Park in the grand scheme of things. Like someone actually like timed it, and there's a lot more practical effects than what there is CG.
Yeah, it's not as distracting as a lot of it would go on to become. Like for me, CGI was just fucking distracting when it just became like, oh, that's obviously not there. That's obviously not happening. Like, and it would just take me out of the movie from.
But it's now at the point where there's entire movies where like most of the actors are real, but they're in like a fake environment with fake shit going on, and their costumes are fake, and they're fighting fake monsters, and the gunfire's fake, and the gore is fake, and at some point it's like, just make a CG, like make an animated movie, like you're already 95% of the way there. Like this isn't even.
It looks like a video game cutscene, basically. That's all it is.
So for me, like I'm just not a fan of it. When it comes to AI, like I don't like it in films. I don't think as someone who's a creative myself, I don't like the idea of, for example, instead of going to pay a bunch of actors to act, I'm going to just use AI.
Yeah.
And do the dialogue. Like that's not fair. And the more the AI that you use in a film, the less that you're needed. Because if you could just have a computer do it, so can anyone else. Where Tom and I, where our skill sets lie is the fact that we can go out and actually shoot this stuff for real and bring in the results that we do. But with that being said, like I have used AI in like development, because when you have $0 and you need to say, hey, I want this actor to play this part, and the producers are like, I don't know if I can't picture him as it. You can take AI and be like, do the full description where you got their hair done up the right way, makeup, the wardrobe on, and you can show that back to the producers, still the actor, but now they're in the character.
Yeah.
And they'll sell. In fact, that's happened on Original Sin. There were actors that for some of the roles were they're like, maybe, I don't know. And then you put them in the costume as the character from the video game, and they're like, oh yeah, that's definitely gonna work. So sometimes you need it. Because hiring an artist, all they're gonna do is do an illustration. But if you can do AI photo altering, it'll make it very realistic. I don't see an issue with that. I've done it for mood boards. There was a project that Tom and I were working on where I sent him mood boards, but they were meant to be internal use only. And it's at a point where it's just me writing a script, and then I'm saying, here's the visual style that I want to go for. I've also done it for, I'm not ashamed to admit that I use it for stuff. The poster for Original Sin, was illustrated by Ryan Carr, a real
Mhm.
human being, but he got sent like a version of an AI image. And I said, here was what I was thinking, but I would much rather you like go do your thing. I just want to show you, like, here's what I had in my head. So he went off and did his own version of it and brought back like the eyeball and
Yeah.
made it way better than what the AI image was. But I could at least say, here's the positioning that I want. Here's like the rough size and like the shape that I need. And then I just let him like do his interpretation of something. But at least it's art. You know, I had a real human do that poster. I think that's very beneficial because it saves the artist from doing, say, 5 or 6 different versions of it. And I'm like, it's not quite right, you know, and I can't describe it correctly.
A little to the left there.
It saves time. It saves time. But I want to make sure that the human is doing the work. But at least then I can get it out of my head and they can see what I'm seeing and then they can go do their own thing. And same thing with like mood boards. I can show something to Tom and be like, here's what I'm thinking in my head. Now go actually like film it.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to use, and that's kind of the way that I use AI, like for like thumbnails or, you know, different stuff on YouTube. Like I'll just have like an idea and I'll try to like just verbalize it to chat GBT or something like that and just see what they come out with. And if it's good enough, it's like, all right, it saves me time, you know. It is a good time saver. And it's not like, you know, the end of this. It's like I'm not, you know, fully AI yet, which if that ever happens, like if I can just do an AI version of me and just have an AI version of me come on here and do, all right, cool, I'll do that. I don't care.
I mean, if you think about it, like
just be me being like, hey, Tony Booba, I love Tony Booba, yay.
When you think about it, like as a YouTuber, like you're not going to have that kind of income to like constantly hire artists to do your thumbnails and like do all this different. Like you need like to cut corners, but at the end of the day, like you're hosting a show. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, and it's especially it's like trying to keep up with you know with the trends of the time. It's like everybody's using it now. Like even the bigger channels, even like NFL, like it's all, you know, it's all, everybody's going that way. It's just because it's, you know,
Residents of Evil uses it for their thumbnails and they get beat up about it all the time. But the owner has actually said, like, for one, he uses the AI tools that are actually in like Photoshop. He doesn't do like generative AI, but it's all in there in the tools. But he also said like he has his own YouTube rep. Like, you know, he's big enough of a channel. He has his own rep. And that's some of the advice that they've been given because the algorithms change. And so you have to constantly update with the times to ensure that you're being seen and like getting pushed over everyone else. And he said, you know, especially when you have to do like a really quick announcement, like, oh my God, Resident Evil 10 gets announced today. You know, he has to either take a screenshot from the announcement video, which might be used by 10,000 other people, or he creates a alternate image based on stuff that he mixes up within Photoshop. And then that gets him the big push. But, you know, part of that is all YouTube's policies because they created that environment where now you have to keep doing different things to stand out and be unique. And then also, like, if you're doing stuff like that where you have to react and actually create new content on the fly, live stream or otherwise, like, oh shit, this game got announced, I need to cover it, you know, within the next hour or else it's old news. What artist are you hiring that's going to deliver a professional thumbnail in an hour
quick
and then have everything uploaded, you know? So there's certain things where it's like you're either stuck using old images or something you can scour on the internet that 10,000 other people are doing, or you do that. So when it comes to YouTubers, I don't really like give them grief. I don't give anyone grief that it's just running a channel. They're, you know, I have more of an issue when like Tom and I would use it. So if Tom and I were just using AI in our movies, we're literally making something to make a profit. You know,
Mhm.
we're trying to like, we're telling you like, hey, give us money, buy our movie, and then you watch it. It's just AI and like no humans worked on it. That'd be like a really shitty deal. And I definitely have an issue with like if Disney did it. Like I already have a problem with like most of the Marvel movies being CG. But if I find out, you know, yeah, 85% of this movie, you know, Iron Man 6 or whatever is AI, I'd be like, no. Like if you know, if one dude's
Do you think it'll ever get to that point? You know, where like Disney,
I
like,
think
because I mean, they're gonna try to cut costs wherever they can. You know, with
the
theaters and
last
streaming and
the last that I knew of was that the guilds were fighting them on it. And I think that was
yeah,
part of the last strike was regarding the use of AI with actors things. So I think it was also with screenwriting. They had all
yeah,
that in there because if they didn't, that's what the studios are going to do because they would save millions of dollars, tens of millions.
oh yeah,
Just imagine that just having AI actors, AI dialogue, AI screenplays. You know, you'd be making movies for nothing.
yeah,
You know, and then it would just be producers dividing up the profits. And you know, now they're getting rid of you know, like movie theaters basically. Everything goes to streaming. There's no overhead on streaming really. You know,
yeah.
you don't have to
Especially
split 50% of your profit.
yeah,
Like
especially with like
HBO
Disney, who
Max.
actually owns their own
Yeah.
streaming service. You know, it's like, yeah, we're just cranking. It's no longer about making films or making a movie. It's about content. It's about how much shit can we throw out there so people will consume it and move on. Consume and
Mhm.
move on. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm concerned about. And there- I feel like a mainstream audience is they're kind of already almost there to where they're trained to accept something like that because
Mhm.
you know Todd talking about what a curmudgeon I am. I like old films because it was shot on film. It's people, it's practical effects and stuff like that. When I see like these Marvel movies with all the CGI and stuff, like it doesn't do anything for me because to me it's just like I said, it looks like a cutscene from a video game or a cartoon or something. But like I know I'm in the minority there. I feel like
Mhm.
most people just see that and they're just like, ah, it's a movie, and they don't think twice about it. It's just like, hey, it is what it is. So I think when we get to the point where it's just if they a movie is just all AI, I think people will just the mainstream audience will just say, it's a movie, yay, something I can watch
Yeah.
for 2 hours and not think about anything, yay, and
And
that's
then
what's
here
concerning to me.
here Tom is like shooting like the one thing that I love is that we shoot digitally, digital cameras, but then he's busting out like camera lenses from the 1980s that are all
It's
like half
awesome.
warped, you know, cuts
I
the
always tell people it's all the little details that add up to the final image. And like I said, I learned from all the documentaries from Romero and from Raimi and CKY and how they used to do things, and it just do it honestly. You know,
Yeah,
we're never gonna have green screen setups. What we see on set is what you're gonna see in the final image. It's not even a thought that we use CGI. If I read something Brandon wrote, if he reads something that I wrote, we know, okay, we're gonna have to do this practically. How are we gonna get it done?
mm,
and there was stuff like
it's music to my
between the
ears.
drafts. Yeah, there were stuff in the drafts where like I would modify things and be like, you know, I was rethinking this and I just don't want to spend a lot of money on this section of it. And so I would like rewrite it to kind of make it a little bit easier for us. And I'd be like, okay, it's still going to be really interesting, but we don't need to like scratch our heads. Like we started thinking practically of like, how would they do it back in the 70s and 80s to do this kind of shot? How would we do
Hmm.
it? And you know, like I think the draft before that was a little bit too insane with like, oh, the house is on fire, you know, like, and then I'm like, okay, we can't. I
Well,
don't want to.
that was something too that kind of crossed my mind. I wanted to ask you guys about, especially with with the Krager's version of Resident Evil coming out, and I mean, it looks like something that would play to a modern audience, I guess. That's kind of what they're, you know, akin to, or whatever. But do you ever have the fear of maybe like, oh, what I would like to do? You talk about shooting everything practically and you know and all that. Do you ever have the fear of like, oh, maybe maybe I'm being a boomer here, and this this isn't going to play well to a younger audience. They're going to see practical effects, or they're going to see actual people and say like, oh, this looks dated, or because I wonder about that too, because like that sounds great to me. Like somebody like me, like sign me up. Like that's what I want to see in a movie. Like I would rather watch a movie about somebody doing the fucking dishes. Like I'm just lame like that. I like old fucking, pull out any random Cassavetes or Bergman film or something for me, and like I'll watch somebody walk across a field and pick blueberries. I don't care. I just like seeing human beings in life doing things you would do in life. For it seems like most people like now, especially younger generations, if you're not flying around blowing up buildings and doing all this carrying on like that, they're gonna say, this looks dated. Do you guys have any concerns about that at all? Like if
I think
sticking to an old school style?
That's just not our audience then. They're not going to like the movie that we make no matter what. If that's what they're looking for, that's not what we do. And at the end of the day, it might sound elitist, but if we made the movie, we say what's in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's
the way to go about it. Yeah, that's the way to go about it. Tell the story you want to tell the way you want to tell it. And if people, it's like you said, when you were doing the documentary, it's like this, I want to see this documentary, so I'm going to make it. And people are saying, nobody's going to give a shit about watching a movie about a documentary about a movie that never got made. And you're like, well, I don't give a shit. I want to see that movie. And you did it. And turns out there were other fucking people that wanted to see that same story. You don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, look at the amount of people that hate Skinamarink versus people that love Skinamarink. Skinamarink still has an audience. And the best thing you could do is just keep the budget within reason. Skinamarink was $15,000. They made money hand over fist on that thing. But, it wasn't made for everyone. It was not a general audience horror film. I mean, to kind of circle back here, the Krieger Resident Evil was written and directed to be a general audience horror film. It's not meant to be made for fans because the fans aren't going to be the only audience that comes to see the film. So they're making something that takes the widest net of people to bring in because it has such a huge budget. For Whistle to the Maples, we had $15,000 invested in the film and made it the best that we could for that money. But I think, our chances of making profit are pretty good. As long as the marketing kicks in and, we get an audience that comes into it. Same thing with the documentary. People are telling me we weren't going to make any money on it. We made money on it. We made money on that thing before we even finished filming because we sold rights. And we had a pretty good sizable return on it. So for something that people are saying, you'll never make a dime on it, no, you just got to keep your budget within reason. Me going out there and doing a $200,000 documentary about an unmade movie, that's pure insanity. And again, Zach Krieger's Resident Evil is an $80 million movie. They got to make a lot.
Is it really? Holy shit!
I believe that includes his price tag. According to sources, Zach Krieger got paid $20 million to write and direct.
God damn. Yeah. I guess that's what happens when, you have two successful films like Barbarian and Weapons, I guess. That's insane. That's like, God, I'm just out of the loop, I guess. $20 million to me would like get you fucking Leonardo DiCaprio or something to be in the movie. Then you could actually do. I always had like when I was younger, like I'd always cast the Resident Evil games with people, like and just play it through like I'm watching a movie, and I always had Leon Kennedy was Leonardo DiCaprio as Leon Kennedy. Like that was always like the constant thing for me because it was right after Titanic when the game came out and shit. You could actually get fucking Leonardo DiCaprio to be fucking Leon Kennedy for $20 million, but golly, I guess they're banking on the name value. I guess he has name value now at this point.
Well, if you look at it, I think it's actually a pretty smart business decision because they just took like one of the hottest names in horror right now and gave him a franchise that hasn't been doing well and allowed him to do whatever. And he's going to bring in his own fan base because Barbarian and Weapons, they're not established IPs. So they built those audiences from the ground up. And now they're going to bring all those people in because it's going to be, hey, did you like Barbarian? Did you like Weapons? And it was in there. They're like director of Barbarian, director of Weapons.
That was the big thing in the trailer,
I think that was the first shit they showed you.
Yeah.
So they wanted to make sure you were hooked from the very beginning. It's very strong marketing. So
that was the most impressive thing about that teaser trailer was the way that they did the credit or the titles on that when he answers the phone and the title disappears. Shit. The title disappears with the phone. I was like, oh, that's kind of clever. I like the way they did that. And that was about it. But yeah, they made it a fucking point of that. I guess, I guess that's true.
Whistle to the Maples is a 2-hour movie about a maple syrup farmer that comes back from the dead. And I had people leading up to the premiere. Everyone had their opinion. You should cut this out. I think it's running a little too long. You should cut this out. I didn't like the way it looked. I ignored them all. It's my movie. I did it the way I wanted to do it. At the premiere, I had a 16-year-old kid come up afterwards, ask me to sign his poster because he loved the movie so much, everything about it. And that's all that mattered to me. That's who I made this movie for when I was a kid, sitting in my room, watching horror movies all night long by myself. That's who the movie's for, is that kid. So just
sometimes that's the best. Yeah, that's the best answer is like make something for like when I started doing this channel, it was just because nobody else was doing anything like I loved what Matt and Eric were doing with WGO and radio and the Garf and stuff like that, but after a while they weren't doing quite as much, and I was just sitting here like waiting. I was like fucking Steven at the TV in Dawn of the Dead, just like they might come back on. Like I'm just like waiting, and I'm just like, well, fuck, I want to talk about this shit, so I'll just start talking about it, I guess. And you just start doing things because it's something you want to see, or it's something that you the 14, 15-year-old version of you would absolutely love. And sometimes that's the best reason to do something. And maybe the only reason to do something is if you're passionate about it and it's something that you want to exist in the world that doesn't exist yet, like make it happen. Is there a date or anything that we can look forward to Whistle to the Maples coming out? Because
I wish there was, but very soon. If you follow our Facebook page, and Residents of Evil is going to have a big announcement as well when it comes out, but it will be soon.
Cool.
Yeah, it's actually the first original film under Rose Studios. So Residents of Evil has like a distribution arm now. So like basically we were like, hey, you want this to be sort of like a Row original? So it's like a finished film. So they watched it, loved it, and picked it up. So now it has the label of like Row Original. And then we've actually talked before we got into Original Sin. I had pitched them an idea for an original horror film that had all the pillars, the gameplay pillars, the stuff that you love of Resident Evil, but it's an original story, original movie. Kind of like what Zach Krieger did, but I don't have Resident Evil as a title. But I was like, Resident Evil isn't the only game that does survival horror. There's lots of other video games similar to it. I was like, why can't we do the same thing with a movie? Like, we don't need.
Yeah, we need a Dino Crisis movie, Dan.
Oh,
Brandon has tried.
I tried.
Did you really? Did you try to pitch Dino Crisis? That would be fucking sweet.
I literally pitched it to the guy that deals with the rights for Capcom. I got to the point where I was talking to. I had a liaison at Capcom, who was just with like licensing. And then I inquired eventually after the documentary. I was like, how do I get these Dino Crisis rights? And they're like, well, that's beyond me. Like, I'm just I deal with like t-shirts and like little things like a documentary. You're talking about like getting the rights to make something else that's going to be for like a massive appeal.
Yeah.
They're like, you got to go talk to this guy over in LA. He's the guy that sold the rights for like Street Fighter, Monster Hunter. He's the guy that they talked to with Resident Evil. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like talking to that guy, and that was pretty cool because I'm like, man, this guy's a bigwig, like going like even higher. And
big shit now.
Yeah. So basically, he was very nice about it, and he essentially said Capcom considers Dino Crisis a legacy title. Like basically, it's like thrown in a vault. They renew the trademarks, but they don't really see it as profitable. And I think every Dino Crisis fan hates when I talk about this. Dear God, someone uses logic and facts, but I was a huge Dino Crisis fan when the games came out.
Hell yeah.
So I still own them. I also have the Japanese versions. That's how much of a fan I am. I have strategy guides. I got a fucking watch somewhere. It was
Do you
like
really?
if you bought it at Kmart, the original game, if you bought it at Kmart, it came with a watch, and I still have that watch. So I am a Dino Crisis fan, but I will say this. Those games have not aged well. Not at all.
Oh, really? I haven't played them in years.
The first game is fucking terrible. They threw out everything good about Resident Evil and replaced it with something shitty just to be Dino Crisis. Like, just to be different. And honestly, if you want like a what do they call it? A hot take. If you want a really good hot take about Dino Crisis is living proof that all the people that made Resident Evil a success were not part of Dino Crisis. Because there was crossover there including the same director. And I know it's a hot take, but I mean, you look at the finished result.
It felt like Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs, And
it really doesn't though. Like that was always the general feeling of it, but like the saving system is like super dumbed down. The inventory system is so ridiculous, where they have separate folders for different item types, and then the inventory system where like you have to use different colored boxes to put different types of items into to transfer them instead of just an item box. They made it this incredibly complex thing. Most of the environments are incredibly boring. It's just like gray tunnels and
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then on top of that, like the puzzles, they went for like super realistic puzzles where it's like, hey, use this crane to move a crate. Like
I remember that too, yeah.
But when you think about it, and
crane,
when you think about it, like Resident Evil was like, oh, well, we have the wind crest and we have the spade key and we have these jewels and a wolf medal. They had all these like crazy ass puzzles, and that's what made the game feel memorable with the puzzles. Yeah. The puzzle aspect is you can remember the items. Like no one wants to be like every single key is a key card that looks exactly the same, and you have to it's just the title's different. That's not interesting. It's not memorable. There's not that much memorable about the first Dino Crisis game, and the characters aren't very good either. Regina's awesome, but then like Gale and Rick, they each have some personality, but they're really just there to kind of open up different avenues of the game. You don't get enough scenes of them to like really like have anything that's extremely memorable. And the villain in the game, like he's barely in it. I mean, I love Dino Crisis. I love the concept of it. But going back and playing the game, I was like, man, this is not good. And the sales
breaks my heart to hear. Breaks my heart to hear. I used to love that game when I haven't played it in years, but hearing you say going back like that's kind of shit.
So
like, yeah. Anyway.
I mean, it's all a matter of taste. There's people that still play it now and they think it's a great game. It's just for me, I think they should have kept the same gameplay. They really should have made it Resident Evil with dinosaurs, and I think it would have sold like hotcakes. But the real nail in the coffin, which a lot of Dino Crisis fans don't like to hear, is that there were 6 Dino Crisis games. You had 1, 2, and 3. Then there was Dino Stalker, and then there was 2 mobile games. There was like Dino Crisis, like Dungeon. It was like a rogue light type game, and then there was like some other thing. Like, I mean, we're going back into early 2000s mobile games, so some of the stuff was Japan only. But even still, all 6 games combined sold less than the original 1996 Resident Evil.
Wow. All 6 combined. Holy shit.
All
that doesn't
6
shock
combined. Yeah. So I think the first game only sold like 2 million copies. Maybe 3. It was not a lot. When you think about Resident Evil 1 from 3 years prior, a brand new game on a brand new system sold like 6 million copies.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Do you know how much Resident Evil 2 sold?
It was right around the same amount. So
right around the same. I feel like that was like huge. I feel like that, like everybody had that, and everybody was talking about that when that came out.
Well, I believe
I guess I'm
with Resident Evil 1. That's all. I think that's also including like the director's cut re-release. So a lot of people picked that up as well. I want to say maybe just off the top of my head because
it also had like a Resident Evil 1 also had like a greatest hits release too, didn't it? Didn't have like 3 different releases.
Yeah, there's
like
3 just for the PlayStation 1.
Yeah,
and then Resident Evil 2 had 3 different releases as well because they had the original January 1998 release, which is the one that had the little sticker on it saying "One Apart" in the movie, and then around September, October of 98, they had the DualShock version release, and that was because DualShock had just come out, the controllers. And then there's a greatest hits release, and the greatest hits release, which I want to say was probably like 99, they switched up the case where they used more of the they started getting rid of the Fat Boy jewel cases where they had that like plastic divider.
Yeah.
And instead it was this cheaper thing where like it was a hinged door that would have a disc on the back side. So most people would know of it if you owned a copy of Resident Evil 3, because if the early copies of Resident Evil 3 and Dino Crisis had demo discs on them. Actually, here you go. Whoa. Where is that Crisis?
Of course.
About to watch a catastrophe back there. Is all my shit.
I know. I said I was like, oh shit! Watch out for that fucking chainsaw award back there, man.
Yeah. But yeah, mine is broke. But essentially, like you have your regular hinge.
Yeah.
But then this piece here,
I do
actually
remember
opens up.
Yeah.
So
I do remember that.
That's actually what they did for Resident Evil 2 for the greatest hits. So you can actually get a slim version of it. I have only ever seen it like back in the early 2000s. I didn't even know they had done it, but yeah, I mean, regardless, like it still sold about 6 million copies, and at the time, the first weekend that Resident Evil 2 came out, it beat like Final Fantasy 7, Super Mario 64 in terms of like fastest selling game for opening weekend. And I think there's like at that time it actually made more money in its opening weekend than like any film at that time. So, I mean, Resident Evil used to like break numbers, and they still do to an extent. You know, the fact that they're like a lot of the games are ending up in the like 10 to 13 million range, which is incredible for a horror game.
Yeah.
For units
Wow.
sold. That's really great.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Hey guys,
And
I'm gonna have to tap out, but I
Okay.
appreciate you guys having me on. All right.
Yeah, man, no worries. Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yeah,
Maybe
man.
after Whistle's out.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to see that. I'll keep an eye out for that. And guys, Tom Robenolt, ladies and gentlemen, he's tapping out. But thanks, man.
Continue on without me.
I'll see you in your dreams, Tom.
You always do. See you guys. Thank you.
See you, man. All right. It's down to 2. Let me fix. There we go.
There we go.
Let me see. That'll work.
Yeah, Tom
but yeah,
is a really good guy.
Yeah, man. He seems really cool. I was really, like I said, when I was watching, like I said, just hearing his, story about, discovering Romero. He seems like a big Romero guy and big Resident Evil guy. And I wanted, the documentaries come out. The Blu-ray is out. That thing sold out quick. Like I remember when that came out, like what was it like when the first day? I mean, it was pretty much sold out. Like
the slipcase version.
Yeah, the slipcase version.
That was like 2 hours. I think it was gone.
Yeah,
3 hours, something like that.
Yeah, it didn't last long.
They did get more copies in of the standard edition because that was sold out, and then they got another batch in. So I was like, good. Because everyone keeps asking, like, how do I get a copy? It's like,
I mean, it covers 2 different fan bases. I wanted to ask you about this. It covers two different fan bases: Resident Evil fans and Romero fans. So I've had people like that, like friends of mine that aren't really big Romero fans, but they're fans of Resident Evil. That were asking me about this documentary before it came out. Like my buddy Rory messaged me. He was like, "Dude, have you heard about this documentary that's coming out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I actually know the guy that's doing it." And he's like, "Oh, cool." So I mean, it was a big topic of conversation for a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, the Resident Evil and the Romero side of it, of course. But now that it's come out, now that it's got the Blu-ray release, it's it's streaming, it's on YouTube now. Actually, is it still on YouTube for free? You can actually see it on YouTube. Yep. It's out there. What has been the reaction and the response from both sides, the Romero fans and the Resident Evil fans? What has been the reaction? And because I mean, you won the Fangoria Chainsaw Award last year for best documentary. Hopefully you have another award coming here soon. Hopefully the what the hell is it called?
The Rondo Award.
Rondo Award. That's what it is.
Actually, I just saw that. I guess they're going to announce the winners tomorrow night.
So, okay.
Yep.
Well, let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I'd love to have a second award.
Yeah, man. You gotta fill up the trophy case back there.
Yeah.
But what has the response been? Has it been, and especially coming from both sides? Is it more positive from the Romero fans, more negative, or vice versa, or what?
I mean, it's overwhelmingly positive from the Romero side because obviously we're all fans of the man. I think more so than just the films. Romero, I think, is lucky in the sense that, and I don't mean this in a harsh way, but you look at something like Dawn of the Dead, the original George Romero film, Dawn of the Dead, and then you look at something like Halloween that came out exact same time. And the quality difference, obviously there's a difference in budget, but Romero could do just as well as Carpenter with more money.
Yeah.
And but there's definitely like a visual quality difference because George had to spread his fucking budget out way more than what Carpenter did with a house.
Yeah.
A guy in a jumpsuit and a William Shatner mask. You know, like there's a lot more that he had to do. But the fact of the matter is, like, George had a way um, of capturing our attention, even when what he was showing us was a little rough around the edges. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
the experience was greater than the budget. But so, like,
It was always,
Romero,
especially
yeah,
Dawn of the Dead. It was always punk rock to me. Like
yeah,
it always felt punk rock. Like you
mhm,
listen to the Sex Pistols albums back in there, the Ramones, or any of those original punk bands, and you can hear it's rough around the edges. It's not overly produced, but there's something about that music that is lasted and sustained all these
mhm,
years later because there's an honesty and a truth to it. And
yeah,
and again, there's something inspirational about it. How many bands started because they heard,
mhm,
the Ramones for the first time or the Velvet Underground? You talk about a flawed, beautiful album. You look at like Nico and the Velvet Underground, those, that album, and I mean, it doesn't sound like an overly produced, polished thing, but something about there's an honesty and a truth to it that you can't, no matter what the budget is or what the size
mhm.
of the production is. It's like you can't reproduce it. And yeah, that to me, like, that's what Dawn of the Dead, that's why I always call Dawn of the Dead is like the most punk rock horror movie ever made, because it is rough around the edges at times. Like you can see, like, oh, there's Tom Savini jumping off a trampoline, or it's shit
Mhm.
like that. You can catch little things like that, but you don't care because it's not distracting, because the overall feel of the movie, the overall vibe, the overall story that's being told,
Mhm.
you know,
I always take
overshadows
it.
all of that.
I always take it too that we tend to forgive all of them for whatever blemishes are in the films, because unlike a lot of other films, I mean, how many mainstream Hollywood films have you watched where you get to go and like hang out with most of those actors and like have a drink
Yeah.
after hours at the location where they filmed it at? Like, we have a very unique opportunity, and I feel like for a lot of us, like, we love George more than the films, and we love a lot of the people that were involved in it. And you look at how many people that come to Living Dead weekend, and they're just excited to be there. It's not even about the
Hmm.
film anymore. It's just like, oh, here's my family. Here's these, like, there's plenty of people that actually know a lot of the actors on a personal basis, which,
Hmm.
try doing that with like anyone from a Tarantino film. I don't think you're getting very far.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's something there that it's very unique. It's a unique experience. And I think on the Romero side of things, people are just overwhelmingly positive because it's more stuff about George. It's more insight. And a lot of the fans were saying they were really happy to see more unique voices in the documentary, as opposed to just a lot of the usuals. Like,
Yeah.
there was a spotlight on other people that typically wouldn't be interviewed for a documentary. And then from the Resident Evil side, I was surprised at just how positive it was. Um, of course, like, you're going to get a lot of negativity from that because George's script isn't accurate to the game. But then again, like, some of the stuff that they beat him up about was like stuff that didn't even exist in the lore back then.
Hmm.
Um, and then other stuff was kind of like up in the air. And then also there's producer notes that he had to incorporate. So he gets the blame for that because, that's just how it works. But
Hmm.
I think overall, like, a lot of the fans were really surprised and really happy at just what George was trying to achieve, that he actually cared, like, he gave a shit enough to actually try and make it just a little bit more than just a popcorn movie,
Yeah.
you know. And honestly, from just enjoying George's films, like, his script felt like it was like a little bit of each of his films, taking ideas and then expanding them on a bigger budget. Like,
Hmm.
the evacuation of Raccoon City in the script just feels like a big budget version of The Crazies. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, like I can instantly see what he was probably envisioning and why he would write it that way. It's like, oh man, I can actually finally do a scene like this justice and really show like what I want to do. So it was pretty neat. Like a lot of callbacks to his own films without being self-referential, other than like one scene where he had one of the characters be like, oh man, this is like Night of the Living Dead. You know, but it feels like very George, like just to throw it in there to be like, yeah, I did this
Give it a
first.
little
I
nod.
did this first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but no, I've been very happy with it. A lot of people like privately message me, and even still, like with the announcement of Original Sin, there was a lot of people that were fans of the documentary coming out, and just saying like, hey, if this is all the same people that made the documentary, like then we're in good hands. And
Yeah.
they were like,
You guys
this
are definitely
is what
the right people to do it. Yeah, because you can see the passion is there, the love for the material is there. Just watching the documentary, the talent is there. So I mean, you guys are the right people to do it. So I totally get that. I totally get that.
you know, for me, just and I think for Tom as well, like the idea of like working on a fan film wouldn't appease a lot of people, but for us, it was like, you know, this is our opportunity to just go out there and be like, hey, here's our Resident Evil movie, and you know, it's portfolio work because I know like one of the things that people wonder is like, well, are you going to direct a regular movie, or are you going to keep doing documentaries? So this is my way of getting something out there that's on a bigger budget that I probably couldn't acquire on my own, and be able to do something that gets eyeballs on it. And I get to tell a story that I've been wanting to tell for years. So I'm hoping fans will enjoy it. There's a lot of, you know, just that Romero inspiration behind it in terms of like just keeping it grounded, practical, and just trying to make a story that is about something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, so I do these type of streams sometimes. And I think you're the perfect guy to ask this, and this is one that always kind of comes up, and I guess kind of touched on it in the discussion you and Tom and Blasey have in the bonus features. But what do you think would have happened? What if George had made that Resident Evil script? I want to throw it to you because, like I said, I do this. Like last one I did was like, what if George did Pet Cemetery? Like it's fun to play around with the thoughts of like, what if, you know, what if this would have happened? I want to get your take on what you think would have happened to George's career. The movie, would it have been successful? Would it have been what it became? What do you think would have happened?
I think it absolutely would have been successful because you would have had George's audience coming in, you know, plus the Resident Evil fans. And I think at that, it would have been the perfect time period where like the fans kind of knew like Hollywood didn't really adapt games accurately coming out of Super Mario Brothers and Wing Commander and all these other video game adaptations coming out.
Double
you know?
Dragon. You know.
Yeah, Double Dragon, Street Fighter.
So Street Fighter, yeah.
So I think there still would have been like a level of acceptance that okay, there's going to be changes. I think you would have seen the resurgence of the zombie genre much earlier. You would have seen it a few years earlier. I think George's career would have been I don't know if it would be bigger, because what I think would have probably happened was you would have gotten Resident Evil. He would not have made Bruiser because he would have came off of Resident Evil, which was still an indie. A lot of people keep claiming like Resident Evil is Hollywood, but it's really not. Constantine is a independent film company, but it gets distributed by Sony. So I think what would probably happened is George probably wouldn't do a sequel. he would have probably
that's what I always
leveraged
thought,
it.
yeah.
He would have probably leveraged it to get money for Dead Reckoning, Land of the Dead, what became Land of the Dead. But because there was that pre 9/11 script that was completely different. And I think I think the timing may have actually been that he would have gotten that thing written sooner and probably did some variation of it. And that would have probably came out, around the time. So I think he would have, and basically I think he would have ended up making what would be Land of the Dead several years earlier. And then, but then I think after that, depending on what studio picked it up, because I think there was a couple different ones that were looking at it. I think instead of the remake of Dawn leading into George finally making his fourth zombie film, I think it would have been his own success of Resident Evil that would have gotten him his fourth zombie film. But depending on who he worked under, he may have made another studio film after that, or maybe it would have went the same way where he just said like, forget these studios, I'll just go back to being independent. But I think just the timing of it would have shifted, and you just wouldn't see Bruiser.
Yeah, that would be the big loss for me. And I love Bruiser.
Bruiser. Bruiser was something I saw when it came out. But I didn't see it the way Blasey did. I never saw it in theaters or anything. I saw it on like satellite. It was on like one of the movie channels.
Yeah, same here. Because it didn't play. It didn't really have a theatrical run that I know of. I mean, it was pretty straight to video. I think. I think it may have played a couple of theaters here and there, but yeah, I remember seeing it.
Did see it. Yeah, I probably did see it. Like right when it came out. So
yeah, I think I remember watching it on like Stars or something like that. Like I remember just coming across
something.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it like online and stuff, like on like the homepage of the Dead and stuff like that. People talking like, "Oh, George has got a new movie called Bruiser," and you would see like the poster, and like in my mind, it was like, "Oh, this George made a slasher."
Yeah,
and then it's like, then I watched it, and I was like, "Okay, well, I don't," you didn't hear anything about it for a while, and then all of a sudden, it just popped up on Stars, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I remember watching it, and I was like, "Well, this isn't really a slasher, but I kind of dig it. There's something about it." But I feel like, if George had done Resident Evil, and if he would have had success doing that, I don't know if George had because I know George, after doing Land of the Dead, he did Diary of the Dead, did Survival of the Dead, and did those 3 zombie films back to back to back. But I always got the vibe that George he never really wanted to keep going to that well. Like he always wanted to do other things. So I wonder if he'd have done Resident Evil, maybe the Dead Reckoning script, what would become Land of the Dead, would get pushed back even farther, because George would have the leverage to try something different. He was working on a couple of other different projects at the time. I know one was like called The Ill or something like that.
Diamond Dead,
stuff like that. I wonder like what, because that was always my biggest, like outside of Bruiser, like George really didn't get an opportunity to do anything outside of zombies for the last.
And Bruiser to me just feels like that's just that only exists because of his hatred of Hollywood, especially with Resident Evil, because it really does feel like, to me in my head, rewatching that the other year, a few years ago, because I was already like researching everything about Resident Evil and George's film for the documentary. So as I'm getting everything written out, I'm like, I'm gonna watch Bruiser, and I was like, man, this film just feels like this is like George's like murder revenge fantasy.
Pretty much what it is. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
I was like, man, this because before, like, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy Bruiser or didn't like enjoy it or anything. It's just one of those where it's kind of like The Crazies. Like The Crazies is a good film, but most of the time you want to watch like Dawn or Day. You're not, like The Crazies is sort of like a special viewing. You
got to be in the right mood for The Crazies.
Yeah. And or like The Dark Half or something. Like it's something that you'll watch maybe enjoy, but you're not always in the mood for it the way you are with like a lot of George's like real big classics.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, like I just never really gave Bruiser like a lot of second thought. And then like just being in that mindset myself where I was just kind of absorbed with everything that was going on in the timeline with George around that time. I'm like, man, this just feels like George was like just so pissed off at Hollywood and everything that happened to him. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna kill all of you. You know, like it's just every like little like way that he was just pissed off, because you know he always has subtle things.
Yeah, even down to him playing like the angry voice on the phone on the radio show.
Yeah,
like for years I had no idea that was George's voice doing that. And then all of a sudden it just hit me. I was like, that sounds like George, but it's like George angry, which is something you never really hear.
Yeah.
You know, but in this one movie, George is playing this angry fucking person on the phone, and it's something you've never heard before. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh wow, that's what angry George sounds like. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, Felcher said it, and I agree with it. It's definitely George's like angriest film. And yeah, for sure, if he gets to do Resident Evil, he doesn't do Bruiser. That's for sure. That's not in him at that point, I don't think. I think he feels like, all right, I'm back in the saddle. You know, here we go. I'm back, baby. I'm back. You know,
he started, and you know, the shame of it is like reading those early interviews with him. You could tell he was extremely excited to do Resident Evil.
Even the commercials. When I had Norman England on, we were talking because he was there on the set when George was filming the Biohazard 2 commercial, and he said George was just happy as could be, just excited to be on set. You could tell like he felt like, okay, this is I'm back at it, you know, just and I think not getting the film, like you said, just really kind of broke him. And then we get Bruiser where he's just like, all right, I'm killing all you fucking people in my I'm putting an axe through your head. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's definitely a George fucking fever dream of like what he wanted to do to every film exec that he encountered over the past 10 years.
You know, as an aside, because I still talk to Norman, and I love Norman. Like he's just like a well of information.
Oh my god, yeah, he's great.
So it's always fun to get these like big bursts of activity where I get to interact with them and talk to him about different stuff. And he ended up, I'm sure he talked about, he has a book coming out about the like his time on set. It's like a full book. So he had actually asked me to do an entire like article about George's film. So it's like I wrote like an entire, like, I don't know what you want to call it, article, essay, whatever. But
film essay.
Yeah. So it's like one of those, like basically something like you read in like a Criterion collection. You know, like an article, like one of those like so like that was a lot of fun.
Resident expert Brandon Salisbury with his film essay on, you know. But yeah, Norman was showing that book. He's actually he's got the cover and everything done. So yeah, he was hyping that up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding more about that.
I'm very excited to get a copy of it. And then that was before I even got the right for it. Now I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have an article on this thing. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cool. So
yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. Like,
so
Norman's super cool. It's fun when I had him on. Like before we went live, like backstage, he was just like, well, I don't really know, you know, how much I'll have to talk about or how long this thing will go, but you know, just ask me questions and I'll try to answer them the best of my ability. And then 4.5 hours later, I'm just like, all right.
That was the problem with the documentary, because he was one of those people that I think his interview was like 90 minutes. And I knew nothing. I just gave the filmmakers over there like a list of questions, and I was like, okay, see you on the flip side. And I get this video back, and it's like 90 minutes, and I'm watching it, like everything in this is pure gold. There were
Yeah.
like, I don't think there was, I don't want to single it out, but I want to say like there was probably like 4 or 5 interviews we did where afterwards Tom and I were like, well, okay, well, now our documentary is 7 hours because I don't know where we're cutting anything. Like just with these people, like
Yeah.
everything is gold. And that was painful to go in there and like have to like cut little slivers out.
I think being a fan too, it's like you knew who you knew. It's like you said, getting people on that you don't get to see often, you don't get to hear from very often. But you, being a fan, you knew who to talk to about this stuff, who actually could talk about it and had stories. I mean, George Demick was a perfect example of a guy that, like, I was aware of George, like I'd seen him at Living Dead Weekend and stuff, but like after seeing him in your doc, like that's when I was like, I gotta talk to this guy. Like, and then when you actually mentioned, you're like, hey, you should try to get George Demick on the show. I was like, oh, you think you would do it? Like, I would love that. And then it was great having him on, but it's just like, you knew who to get for that. You knew Matt Blasey. We got to talk to Matt. We got to talk to Norman England. We got to talk to Felcher. We got to talk to Christopherakis, Demick. Like,
they're all like, they were all great personalities too.
Yeah.
And like each of them brought different things in. We could have made just a Romero doc and it would have been, I would have been happy because the stories we had were just great. And, and it was funny getting like, you know, like Felcher will tell the story about the first time. I think it was the first time he met George, where like he drove Chris back to Pittsburgh from Cinema Wasteland, and it was funny getting like that entire story, and then you get a story from Christian, and it's like the same thing, but like his version of it. And it's like they're both filling in details.
Yeah,
I mean, these like two different eyewitness accounts of the same thing. So that was like a lot of fun. But you know, a lot of that stuff we had to cut out. There's all these like great stories that at the end of the day, like I'm like, my God, this documentary is going to be 20 hours long if we don't cut something.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part about doing a documentary is trying to figure out what to cut and what not to cut. And
we did end up, I know I've mentioned it before, but like we did end up going back and actually doing a director's cut. And we did get some
what's
new
the plan
interviews.
with that?
Well, the plan is I'm waiting on Tom to finish putting the thing together. So I would sit with him. Yeah, this will be me talking shit on Tom.
There we go.
Just so I could say like, hey, I did it. No, we spent a lot of days.
Well, that's why he had to leave early. He had to go. He had to go work on this.
Yeah. He probably did actually, because his whole thing is like I think he's just done with this thing in terms of like how many times do I have to edit the same fucking movie, you know? But no, he's a great sport. But we sat there, we took all of our new material, and then we went back to a lot of the stuff that we had to cut out because I think the original cut of the theatrical cut was like 2.5 hours. So we had to cut that thing down like, what would that be? Like 35 minutes or whatever. So then on top of that, we had all this new material and the sections on the screenplays where we kind of give like the plot synopsis for like the different writers, including George. That was all last minute stuff. We had completely different sections that we put together that we filmed all this footage for. We had like different articles that were put in there. We had narration from Pablo, who played Albert Wesker. We had all this stuff. And then the lawyers came in and they're like, you can't use any of this. and at the same time, because we were trying to get through the legal issues, we sold the rights to Europe first. They gave us money like right out of the gate. Well, we showed them like 20 minutes. Like here's a 20-minute reel of footage and some interviews, and like look at our pretty trees and this zombie head like turning, and they were just like, sold. How much do you want? You know, and they like
it's like Don. It was like Dario. Yeah. It was like, hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, you know. So, but we had a deadline that we had to meet, and I was like, oh God, dude, like this deadline's coming up and we don't have this thing legally cleared yet. So we like basically did like a Hail Mary. Like we had like 3 days. I like call up a friend that's a huge Res Evil guy. I was like, hey, can you get me an audio recording? Like, I need like your thoughts on these screenplays. You know the material. I was like, record it on a phone. I don't care. And I like, we'll fix it in post. And sure enough, we did. I mean, we didn't even have that. I had to go back through and like repair the audio, and then deliver it to Tom. But that's what we got was a phone recording. And honestly, the whole like playing on a radio, that was so like Tom could add in like a little bit of like a radio feel to it.
Yeah, just to kind of mask it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what it was all done. So
it's genius.
So what we did was we actually got the guy to do a sit down interview. So now you'll actually see him on camera, and he like went back and actually like recorded everything. Great footage. We got a few other interviews. And I think like just for example, the Romero script section was like maybe 25 minutes where we go over the script and talk about some stuff about it. I don't know the exact time, but I think I want to say it's like 50 minutes now. So we doubled the thing, and
you just went page by page.
I mean,
and if you did that, I would be there for every fucking minute.
I mean, like we just went a lot further in depth, and then we also like break down some of the characters and start doing more connections with like the feel and like how it connects into Romero's films, like from like an inspirational type. So I mean, it's actually really interesting to me anyway, because I've looked at this footage so much that I'm usually bored to tears. It's like the curse of being a filmmaker is you can never enjoy your own film because you've already watched it 1,000 times.
Yeah. And all you ever see are the flaws and the things that you wanted to do, didn't get to do. Yeah, George always talks about that. Where he's like, God, I can't watch Night of the Living Dead because all I see is one big flaw after another. And it's just like, well, I understand.
So basically, we sat down, we put everything together, and then we ended up blocking it essentially, where it's like, okay, we got everything in. So Tom then has to go through, and the way Tom's process works is like we had like all these gaps because we had to split the timeline, drop in our new material. He adds in the shit. So he has to start at the beginning and re-stitch all the gaps and close them up, and then also color grade and do sound on all the new material. And then he has to layer in the music, and then that becomes our master file. But so because of all these like little gaps, I don't know the exact length of the film yet. I keep waiting for him to finish it up. I think he was like, he's like pretty far into it. I think he was actually at the Romero script section, maybe. I think that's where he's at. So that probably means he's about like 70% finished. But I want to say this thing has to be at least 3.5 hours. I'll be surprised if it's under that because we dumped some new material in there everywhere.
Well, what do you like? Do you have any ideas of what you like, how you would want to release it, or what you'd want to do with it, or is it just going to be something you would sell on the side, maybe, or
no? It would go through the North American distributor.
Okay.
So it's they paid the money to they gave me like $5,000 to go back and get more interviews. So yeah, like that was like right after the release. They were that happy with it after the first quarter. They're like, I was like, hey, you want the director's cut? And like we talked about it, and they gave me money, and we went back through and did that. So I need to touch base with them here probably this week because the next quarterly report should be getting sent to me. But
sweet,
I need to give them an update on it. You know, we're only like I don't know, 10 months late delivering it. So But it actually worked in our favor because, we ended up winning an award. We might win another award. So it's really like, it's just working in our favor to
Yeah.
like take our time, do this. This is sort of like my last word on this documentary. I called it the vanity cut, just because it's like they gave me no.
It's anything and everything you've ever wanted to know is right here.
Mhm.
Don't ask any more questions.
Yeah, no limitations on time limit. We just got to get it legally cleared. But they did say that there was some interest outside of like the normal means that we were doing. So I don't know if there's a streamer that wants it directly or what, but we'll find out.
That would be kind of an interesting idea for, because I mean, I was thinking like Shudder just lost Joe Bob, and they're I guess they're bringing in like Tales from the Crypt and all that. For something that long, do you think maybe they could do like a mini series type of thing for it, like a 4 or 5 episode mini series that would just kind of?
I mean, we got 30 hours of footage. They can make it as long as they want, but I can tell you this:
5 seasons worth of.
If I went back to Tom, it was like we got an order for a 10 episode doc. He'd probably shoot me. He probably would. He would shoot me right there, and then it'd just be Tom Robenolt's Resident Evil.
Yeah, there you go. Even more promotion. It's like, man, this documentary drove this dude to kill the other dude. It's like, oh, well, I gotta check this shit out. Holy shit!
Do you know how nice Tom is? When you started,
seems very nice.
When you started this stream, you asked him right off the bat, "How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Robenolt?" He's like, "Yeah, it's Robenolt." It's like, "Oh, okay." I've been calling him Robenolt for 4 years. He has never corrected me.
That's why I asked, because I've been saying Robenolt. I think I've been saying Robenolt when I've been talking about the stream, and I would say, "Oh, Tom Robenolt," because I heard you pronounce it that way in your interview on the bonus features of the fucking documentary, and then
I pronounced it that way because that dickhead never corrected me.
Never.
So I'm gonna be like ripping into him to be like, "Really, guy? 4 years."
So you're just finding out tonight?
That's how you why I was starting to like smile about it, because I'm like, it's Robinolt. I'm thinking like, you could have.
Well, because then I heard, because then when I watched that the announcement video for Original Sin, and then the dude pronounces it Robinolt, and I was like, oh, maybe it's Robinolt, but I couldn't tell. So I wanted to ask him straight up. So I had no idea. You didn't even fucking know either.
There you go. I just found it like really funny. It's just one of those where like oblivious. I've known this guy for how long? Met him in person. I've even like introduced him to people. Be like, "Here's Tom Robenolt," and he's just, "Hi, I'm Tom." He like never corrects it. That's how nice he is. But that's gonna be a funny one. That's gonna be a funny one.
How do you correct somebody about that though, without coming off like a big douche? It's like, actually, it's Robinolt, and then you look like an asshole, and he's just like, yeah. So yeah,
that sounds like something. That sounds like something Tom and I would do.
Actually,
so we're just par for the course. So,
but Leon had a comment here telling the story of George, and Resident Evil was best for people who didn't know about his movie and what was supposed to happen. And piggybacking off of that, Landrum's in the house, Drone of the Dead. Hey, dudes, popping in for a quick sec to say hello. Brandon, it's good to see you. Hope you're well. Hope to see you soon. Absolutely. 5 weeks. We'll all be in Pittsburgh. But I did want to mention something that Matt said that I think is so true about the documentary too, and kind of piggybacking off of what Leon's saying here, is that Matt, he made the mention of that it's a perfect documentary. If you're a Romero fan, and let's say you have a girlfriend or somebody that doesn't quite understand why you're so fascinated with this filmmaker, or why you're fascinated with these series of films, like this documentary is a perfect like showpiece to let others into that world, to kind of show like, oh, I see now why you like this guy so much, And I think that's one of the biggest compliments that I can give, because yeah, I've had so many girlfriends, friends, whatever in the past that are just like, what's your big fascination? And you never really know what to show them or how to explain it or how to talk about it. But certain things like this documentary are like a perfect example of like, you can put this on and like, you can totally get just from the stories and the emotions of like hearing from people that, worked with George, like Demick and Jim Crut and Stavrakis and Felsher and hearing how much they dug him and explain how much George meant to them and stuff. And I think that's as big of a compliment as you can give a Romero fan can give to somebody who's made a documentary about George Romero. It's like, because there's a lot of them out there that you're just kind of like I love Autopsy of the Dead, the Night of the Living Dead documentary, but that is one that I would never show anybody who wasn't already a fan, because they're gonna say, God damn, that like they're interviewing this guy, like the guy who made the cricket noise, like, geez, these people are nerds. Like, well, who cares? To me, I care. Like, I'm like, oh, it's the fucking guy who made the cricket noise. I want to know his story,
What was the one? The Birth of the Living Dead?
Yeah, Birth of the Living Dead.
Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn all about the making of the movie, and it really was more about the cultural impact of the film.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but I kind of had the same thought of like, man, if I wasn't already like a huge Romero fan, I would be like, what the fuck is this thing? Like but to me, like, it was still like extremely interesting. Like, that's one of those things where I wish they kind of like packaged them together so you can kind of get like, well, here's the origins, here's the production, and here's the aftermath, like get like different documentaries on the same thing.
Yeah.
But no, I think I probably need to soon go to bed. It's been like 3 hours, and just so you understand, like I was up all last night, and then I got about 3 hours of sleep, and then woke up to get the internet hooked up on his place. Then did about 3 hours of driving today because we've been moving all week. We're like finally situated in this new house, but I still like need to make trips down to the old place and like pick up more items. So
where'd you move to?
Moved from Mechanicsburg up to Shippensburg. So like back basically where I grew up at. I'm still within the same area, like central Pennsylvania, but I moved closer to my friends and family. So this is literally the town I basically grew up in. So it's really nice being back here. Get to see like a lot more of my friends and stuff. It's only like 45 minutes away, but it's enough of a drive on a highway to be a pain in the ass. So
yeah.
I'm just glad to be back in an area where, like, before I was in like one of those like HOA communities, and it was outside of the area. So to me, like, I like taking walks, but you're just taking walks in like cookie cutter houses, and there's like nothing really there. Whereas like now,
I feel you,
because I'm like right in a town. I can like, I want to go grab something to eat quick. I can literally walk 1 block and like get something to eat, or just take a walk around town, no problem. And, it's a lot of fun.
That's kind of where I'm at now. I'm in like one of those just neighborhoods where it's like, I'm gonna go take a walk, and it's just like, yeah, but what am I gonna like? It's just a bunch of fucking houses that all look the same, and it's like, all right, well.
But I can definitely tell I'm getting worn down, and tomorrow's just going to be another day of like production meetings, and I got a lot of stuff this week because we're under the crunch to get all the budgeting done by the end of the month for Original Sin. So,
well, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think you guys are going to knock it out of the park. Everything I've heard about it so far, it's music to my ears. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't wait to check out what you guys do with it. I'll see you here in a few weeks. You'll be Living Dead weekend. So
I'm flying by the seat of my pants to go, but I will definitely be there.
You gotta be there, at least for one day. Just
I'm gonna be there for at least 2. But I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. Like, no plans. Basically, once the VIP tickets sold out, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, I'll just show up. I'm like, I could just stand outside the fucking mall and talk to people, and I'd be happy. But
that's what I did one year. I was it's just like, we'll just catch them as they come out, you know.
Yeah, it's just the typical, like I didn't get the VIP, so I'm like all pissy about it. But no, I'll still go and have a great time. But I'm like, I don't know why I'm like so fucking pissy about missing out. I think it's because I've always done VIP, and like this is the first time where, because of like moving and like saving up money and stuff, I like it just sold out like immediately. I was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
These tickets are always on. Like, you could like wait like a month and they'd still be around. So I was just kind of pissy about it. I was like, man, I knew I should have saved my ticket from October. It's like, why did I have to burn it there? Because I had extra tickets. So I was like, oh, fuck it. But yeah, I'm gonna hop out of here and
all right, man. Yeah, we'll see you, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff's making the trip first time. So look forward to meeting Jeff. And yeah, Bob was saying super excited for Original Sin. I think we all are. It's the Resident Evil movie that we need. I don't know about the Craggers thing, but I feel pretty good about this one. So but I'm gonna hop out of here too. Brandon, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time. But until then, stay safe, stay prepared, but always stay scared.